This guy wields legendary immortality and insane cellular regeneration. Yet, he chooses to barely survive day after day hidden within a filthy garbage dump, all because he was born with a cursed constitution. A dark research institute abducted him, locking him in a cage for 10 agonizing years. Every single day was pure, unadulterated hell. Even after escaping back into the real world, ordinary people instinctively recoil in pure terror the second they witness his current monstrous appearance. But today, fate shifted. He finally met the one person willing to reach out a girl who literally treated him to dog food upon their very first encounter. It turns out, a miraculous phenomenon exists in this world called the special heart. This epic mutation awakens in only a tiny fraction of humanity. These chosen few ignite their mutated cores to unleash divine powers, earning the title Heart Mutants. During Kim Jiwoo's desperate breakout from that hellish lab, he literally gripped a high-voltage power line with his bare hands just to obliterate his pursuing guards. He absorbed the devastating electrical surge directly into his core, completely surviving because his awakened heart granted him absolute, unmatched immortality. To him, being captured again meant a fate worse than death. Society praises this terrifying power as God's blessing, but Kim Jiwoo curses it. This very mutation twisted his body into this nightmarish, skeletal state. At this moment, he scavenges through a massive trash heap for a scrap of sustenance, quickly discovering a discarded piece of stale bread tossed out moments ago. He snatches it up, ravenously devouring the crust. Out of nowhere, a tiny stray puppy trots to his side, tail wagging as it begs silently. Taking pity, he splits his pathetic meal in half and shares it with the pup. Without an ounce of fear, the little dog immediately scarfs down the bread. Within seconds, an entire pack of strays swarms Kim Jiwoo. Suddenly, aggressive voices echo down the narrow, dimly lit alleyway. Paranoia strikes. Thinking the lab's hounds finally tracked him down, he instantly ducks into the dark shadows to scout the threat. Instead of heavily armed guards, 3 street thugs have cornered a terrified high school girl. Instantly, Kim Jiwoo spots a heavy bag of dog food in her trembling arms. His mutated heart skips a beat. Did she brave this slum just to feed the strays? Stepping out of the darkness, he barks at the punks to back off. Seeing his ragged clothes, the thugs burst into arrogant laughter. Where did this filthy beggar crawl out from? They sneer, violently ripping away Kim Jiwoo's protective headscarf. Kim Jiwoo coldly declares he is no beggar. The second his nightmarish, skeletal face is exposed, the blonde thug shrieks in pure terror, stumbling backward in absolute shock. Ripping a literal bone from his own body, Kim Jiwoo completely silences their pathetic screams, commanding the trash to get lost immediately. But before the words even leave his mouth, the terrified punks are already scrambling away for their miserable lives. The shell-shocked schoolgirl collapses onto the hard pavement, stammering her thanks in a fragile whisper. But a split second later, she watches Kim Jiwoo marching straight toward her. Cloaked in heavy alleyway shadows, his monstrous visage looks infinitely more demonic. Pure panic takes over. She squeezes her eyes shut, shields her chest, and shrieks for the monster to stay back. Yet, Kim Jiwoo ignores her completely. Opening her eyes, she realizes his intense gaze is entirely locked onto the spilled kibble scattered across the dirty concrete floor. He crouches like a beast, shoveling handfuls of dry kibble into his mouth. Frozen in shock, she faintly mutters, "That is dog food." Kim Jiwoo freezes mid-chew. Apologizing with massive awkwardness, the intimidating monster politely asks if he could please eat a little more of her kibble. That polite request completely shatters the girl's remaining fragile nerves. A talking skeleton man? It is way too much. Screaming her lungs out, she scrambles up and sprints away. Watching her vanish, Kim Jiwoo feels zero surprise. "Just as I thought," he mutters darkly. She ran for her life, after all. Grabbing another massive handful of dog food, he swallows it down. Thanks to her panic, he finally scores one uninterrupted, quiet meal. But the frightened girl hasn't gone far. Trembling near the alley entrance, she slowly peeks her terrified face from behind the brick wall. Witnessing the gentle way Kim Jiwoo interacts with the surrounding strays, her intuition screams that this terrifying monster is actually incredibly kind. A shocking realization violently strikes her mind. Could this skeleton be an awakened heart mutant? Remembering urban legends and how he fearlessly defended her against those thugs, a massive wave of crushing guilt washes over her heavy heart. Gathering every ounce of bravery in her trembling soul, she slowly steps back into Kim Jiwoo's path. Pulling a fresh sandwich from her school bag, she stammers softly, "If you are still hungry, would you maybe like to eat this instead?" Kim Jiwoo stares at the food, completely stunned, asking if it is really for him. Blushing, she apologizes for judging his terrifying exterior and running. Without hesitating a single second, Kim Jiwoo accepts the offered sandwich. Staring at the plastic wrapper, his mutated heart hammers wildly against his ribs. For the first time since his hellish transformation, someone has willingly offered him human food. He recognizes that packaging instantly. It is a cheap brand he has scavenged from garbage cans countless times. The moment he takes that very first bite, his entire soul shudders. He cries out inwardly, "This flavor is absolute heaven." He never imagined anything in this cruel world could taste so incredibly divine. It is intoxicating enough to break his self-control. Every single layer tastes like an absolute masterpiece. The flavor is so overwhelming he could die without a single regret. Right now, this girl standing before him looks like a literal angel from above. Watching him eat so contentedly, the girl finally asks in a soft whisper, "Mr. Uncle Skeleton, what is your real name?" Between desperate bites, he finally answers in a raspy whisper, "Kim Jiwoo." The girl beams brightly. "Nice to meet you, Uncle Jiwoo. My name is Song Heji." Petting the stray dogs, she asks why he is here. Jiwoo replies in a dark tone that a sinister research lab is hunting him, forcing him into hiding. Heji's warm smile shatters instantly, asking again in pure disbelief to confirm his terrifying words. Jiwoo nods, a haunting shadow crossing his hollow eyes. This hellish facility specializes in capturing heart mutants, and they ruthlessly want their subject back. Heji's voice trembles violently, swearing she has never heard of such a terrifying nightmare place. She anxiously presses, "What exactly did those monsters do to you?" Jiwoo falls silent, slowly pulling back the bloody curtain on his tragic past. For 10 agonizing years, he endured relentless, lethal experiments and unimaginable physical torture. Claiming they were testing miracle drugs, they forced deadly poison down his throat just to test twisted organ compatibilities. They completely hollowed out his internal organs. Heji's face drains of color as she gasps, "You suffered through that hell for 10 whole years?" Jiwoo's voice remains eerily calm but bone-chillingly cold, explaining that his mutant heart constantly revives him. No matter the fatal injuries, his cursed body will always forcefully regenerate. Gripping his ragged headscarf, he lets out a sorrowful, self-mocking laugh. Because of that endless cycle, he has mutated into this hideous monster. As silence falls, Jiwoo notices Heji staring piercingly at his face. Utterly ashamed, he desperately yanks his scarf down to hide his skull. But a second later, Heji abruptly jumps up and shouts, "Just forget about all that. Come with me to a special place." Giving him zero options, she firmly grabs Jiwoo's skeletal hand, and he can only let himself be dragged along. Staring at her retreating back, Jiwoo's mutant heart skips a dramatic beat. He whispers inwardly, "I never imagined anyone would willingly hold the hand of a monster like me. Grabbing me like this, I might just fall for you." But suddenly, a terrible disaster unexpectedly strikes. Heji accidentally rips Jiwoo's entire arm clean off. Staring at the severed limb in her grasp, she lets out a blood-curdling scream. Panicking, she forcefully shoves the severed arm back toward him. Jiwoo remains completely unfazed, gently reassuring her, "It is totally fine. His shattered body is just like this sometimes. If perfectly aligned, the bones will seamlessly fuse back together." Hearing this impossible truth, Heji's racing heart finally calms down. Only then does Jiwoo ask where she was actually trying to drag him earlier. Moments later, Jiwoo emerges wearing a brand new track jacket, his skull completely covered by a surprisingly normal-looking wig on his head. Heji proudly states this will easily deflect unwanted attention from his previously ragged, terrifying appearance. They are just cheap convenience store goods, but they will perfectly mask his identity for now. But to Jiwoo, these cheap clothes feel so incredibly good they do not even seem real. Admiring the fabric, he excitedly declares, "This snug feeling is exactly like growing a brand new layer of skin. This warmth feels like every lost strand of hair has resurrected. These are the greatest clothes ever." Heji quickly cuts him off. "We are not finished yet. Your skeletal face still draws way too much attention. Without ears, wearing a mask is impossible. I will put some makeup on to cover it up." Accompanied by a crisp smack, Heji completes the final dramatic step. She guiltily confesses that this is her very first time applying cosmetics to a literal skeleton, so the result is slightly messy, but it guarantees dangerous people will never recognize him. Jiwoo softly whispers, "It is perfect." He genuinely loves the humanizing outfit and makeup, but this comforting warmth does not last long. Checking her watch, Heji gasps in sheer panic. She is incredibly late for cram school and hastily shouts her quick goodbyes. Before sprinting off, she desperately begs him to protect the puppies. Jiwoo silently watches her energetic figure vanish. He firmly etches that precious name deep into his mutant heart. Song Heji. Resting on the dirt with the puppies, her simple request unleashes tidal waves in his soul. Does this mean she will return again tomorrow? The brutal lab treated him like disposable trash. Everyone he encountered during his escape had screamed in absolute terror and fled. This is the very first time someone has treated him like a real human. He gently strokes the pup, his voice thick with emotion. "It is all thanks to you. If we never met, I would have vanished, never crossing paths with Miss High." After mulling it over, he dubs the little guy Potato. The pup happily licks his hand, absolutely thrilled with the new name. An unprecedented warmth floods Kim Jiwoo's chest. So, this is the feeling of truly being needed, he whispers softly. Hai bought him clothes, stayed by his side, and shared her voice. The more he dwells on it, the more angelic she truly seems. A quiet hope blossoms in his soul. If he just remains here, he can definitely see Hai once more. But the freezing dampness beneath him snaps him back to harsh reality. He curses his own naive foolishness. He is a hunted man. Lingering here will only drag Hai right into the crosshairs. Kim Jiwoo grits his teeth and forces himself up. His mind is made up. The sanctuary cannot hold him anymore. He must follow his dark path. By early dawn, Jiwoo lies unconscious beside a rotting mountain of garbage. A filthy rat scurries right up his exposed breastbone. He jolts awake, violently snatching the pest away in one fluid strike. Gasping for air, he recalls the blurry memories of last night's endless march. He had completely blacked out, collapsing into this filthy wasteland. Suddenly, violent hunger strikes, forcing him to frantically dig through his pockets. He pulls out a handful of kibble. Anticipating this exact nightmare scenario, he brought the dog food along just in case. To make this pathetic meal bearable, a desperate idea strikes him. If he visualizes it as a gourmet sandwich, maybe the awful flavor will magically transform. He sorts the kibble by color. Green becomes fresh lettuce. Yellow is baked bread, brown is rich meat. He swallows massive mouthfuls. Shockingly, it genuinely tastes exactly like a sandwich. But suddenly, a sharp burst of barking shatters the silence. He snaps out of his delusion, realizing Potato has already devoured the entire stash of dog food. Crushing despair hits him instantly. "You ate all my rations, how will I survive?" he groans helplessly. But as the words leave his lips, a shocking realization freezes his entire body. He stares blankly at Potato, his mind racing with a million frantic questions. How is Potato even here? If the hound found him, does that mean she is close? Before the shock fully settles, a deeply missed, familiar voice echoes through the alley. "Mister, why did you vanish without a single word? I went totally crazy searching for you." The person standing there is Hai. Right now, Kim Jiwoo is incredibly grateful for his literal skeleton face. Otherwise, his overwhelmingly emotional expression would be completely exposed. The second Hai appears. The agonizing void in Jiwoo's chest is instantly healed. She explains her exhausting day-long search. Only by relying on Potato tracking his unique scent did she finally locate his miserable hideout. She scolds him, warning that wandering alone is far too dangerous. Jiwoo simply lowers his head, whispering a deeply apologetic response. He warns that staying near him will only drag her into a deadly storm. But Hai gazes at him softly. "I am just so incredibly relieved, I finally found you. Look, this little guy was terrified for you too." Potato bounds over, affectionately licking his bony face. That sudden surge of warmth chokes the words from his throat. He can only murmur Potato's name. Moments later, Hai empties her backpack, spreading a feast across the dirt. Her hands eagerly search the bag while her voice remains incredibly gentle. "Mister, since yesterday, you have only eaten one measly sandwich, right? You are basically starving, so I raided the convenience store." She pops open a box of cookies and completely floods them with a bottle of rich milk. Flashing a radiant smile, she hands the concoction to Jiwoo, promising it is an absolute flavor explosion. Jiwoo stares at the milk-soaked treats, completely frozen in his tracks. He lets out a bewildered gasp. What on earth is this? Yesterday's meal was already a divine blessing. Without a single second of hesitation, he scoops up a massive bite. Instantly, the heavenly flavor electrifies his entire soul. It is so devastatingly delicious that literal tears flood his eyes. He frantically urges Hai to taste this masterpiece. But she just smiles warmly, passing him a cold cola and telling him to drink up. But the absolute second Jiwoo grips that cola, the stump of his severed left arm violently trembles. Astonishingly, solid bone begins regenerating. Hai gasps in pure shock, instantly leaning in to inspect the miraculous sight. She whispers anxiously, "Do you always heal bit by bit like this? To fully recover, would it actually take a few days of rest?" Jiwoo solemnly shakes his head. "To fully regenerate, I need several years." Hai practically screams in utter disbelief upon hearing this. He quickly clarifies that this pathetic speed relies purely on normal food. If he absorbed a massive quantity of blood, his recovery would be instantly explosive. He kept this dark secret locked away, terrified the gruesome truth would scare Hai away. Then, he drops one final bombshell. That extreme method only works inside the research institute. Right now, simply eating a proper meal is enough to survive. Hai presses him for answers. Did the institute ever actually cure him? Kim Jiwoo's voice turns dead flat. "Yes, but they were never helping me. They only treated me like a lab rat, dissecting my secrets however they pleased. That is why the hounds keep chasing him. No matter where he hides, there is no escape." Suddenly, the truth hits Hai. This is exactly why he vanished yesterday without a single goodbye. Kim Jiwoo drops the mask. Her guess is dead on. As long as she stays tangled in his cursed fate, her life is in grave danger. He begs her to stop showing him any kindness. But hearing this, Hei's eyes turn fierce. She sternly orders him to the police station with her. Kim Jiwoo scoffs. Going to the cops is completely useless. To the rest of the normal world, he is nothing but a terrifying monster. The police have nearly blown his head off before. But Hei tells him to stop being afraid. Her older sister is not just a police officer. She is a heart mutant, exactly like him. This revelation hits Kim Jiwoo like a lightning bolt, leaving him staring at Hei in pure disbelief. But he violently crushes that spark. He does not dare to hope anymore. Hei frantically urges him to trust her just once. She swears her sister is truly a good person. Kim Jiwoo falls dead silent. Looking into the girl's earnest eyes, the ancient glacier frozen around his heart finally cracks open just a tiny bit. Meanwhile, Hei bids a tender farewell to the stray puppies. She softly whispers for them to survive, promising the animal shelter will rescue them soon. Potato barks twice in response. Heaven knows if the brave pup actually understands her words. Kim Jiwoo slowly crouches down, looking at Potato. You saved my life again, little guy. Thank you, Potato. This time, I absolutely refuse to run away like a total coward. I swear I will come back to see you. With that promise, Kim Jiwoo walks away with Hei. In 3 grueling years of running, this is the very first time someone actively pulled him out of the abyss. Staring at Hei's warm, gentle smile, Kim Jiwoo's mind begins to race with impossible thoughts. Maybe he really can stop this endless wandering. Maybe he can live like a normal person. But instantly, blinding headlights ruthlessly crush his fragile hope. A speeding car violently slams into Kim Jiwoo. The devastating impact launches his broken body into the air, tracing a horrifying arc through the night. He crashes heavily onto the brutal pavement. His bones shatter with a sickening, sharp crack. Before Hei can even scream, a brutal hand covers her mouth. The thug tightly restrains her, viciously ordering his men to grab Kim Jiwoo before anyone sees. Several assassins in black leap from the vehicle. Wielding heavy clubs, they ruthlessly pin the critically injured Kim Jiwoo onto the bloody asphalt. The sinister leader steps forward. We finally tracked you down, you miserable skeleton brat. He barks in order to drag Kim Jiwoo away. Tonight, they will violently settle every single grudge from this chaotic chase, once and for all. Soon, 3 ominous black vans speed wildly down the dark midnight highway. In the rearview mirror, Kim Jiwoo is brutally dragged along the ground behind the speeding vehicle. His agonizing howls are swallowed by the howling wind. A thick, coarse rope strangles his neck, violently slamming his battered body against the unforgiving road. His bloodshot eyes look ready to burst as he roars in sheer agony. Damn it all. He desperately claws at the ground to stop, but it is completely useless. The friction violently grinds his fingers down to bloody, exposed bone. Drowning in absolute despair, his mind spirals, blaming this entire nightmare on himself. Now, even innocent Hei has fallen into their evil clutches. He struggles furiously, but the cursed rope remains as unbreakable as the cruel chains of fate. The brutal truth hits him. With this cursed body and worthless power, he can protect no one and change nothing. All he can do is beg the heavens helplessly for someone, anyone, to save him. Suddenly, a miracle happens. Several fierce, dark shapes lunge out from the roadside shadows. It is the loyal stray dogs from the junkyard. They viciously pounce onto the moving rope. Their fangs clamp down hard, tearing wildly until, with a sharp crack, the deadly tether finally snaps in two. The thugs in the vehicles quickly notice the severed line. Without hesitation, one black van aggressively swerves around to finish the job. But the brave stray dogs refuse to retreat. They stand as an unyielding shield before Kim Jiwoo. 4 punks armed with heavy steel clubs leap out, spitting vicious curses. The lead enforcer snarls like a demon. These damn filthy beasts dare come back. Very soon, the explosive, sickening sound of heavy steel clubs violently rings out. Kim Jiwoo burns his remaining strength to drag his shattered body over. He watches in pure horror as the punks ruthlessly crush the defenseless dogs with their weapons. Gritting his bloodstained teeth, Kim Jiwoo desperately crawls forward. These innocent animals are bleeding out in his place. He absolutely has to do something. Potato fearlessly sinks his teeth into a punk's thigh, refusing to let go. In that agonizing moment, Kim Jiwoo finally remembers his cursed, mutated heart. If he can just absorb the fresh blood spilled on the ground, even a tiny drop, his monstrous body can begin to rapidly regenerate. Burning his absolute last ounce of strength, he crawls toward the crimson pool. Every grueling inch feels like flaming steel needles stabbing directly into his bones. But suddenly, his heart completely shatters. Little Potato, who fought so bravely just seconds ago, collapses into the spreading pool of blood, hovering on the very brink of death. His mind goes entirely blank. Only bone-deep agony remains. The stray dogs he cared for lie lifeless around him. He screams their names over and over, but only a grave-like silence answers back. This gruesome sight drags him straight back to those 10 years of hellish captivity. Every single morning, he woke up in pure agony, waking up to absolute torture. What waited for him wasn't salvation, but an endless nightmare of brutal experiments. They forcefully pumped foreign blood into his veins. They ripped out his organs while he was wide awake, subjecting him to unimaginable horrors. Day after bloody day, year after cursed year, that same suffocating despair played on an endless loop. Thanks to that mutated heart, even the sweet release of death became an impossible luxury. Luckily, his meticulous planning finally let him escape that hellish facility. The exact moment he tasted freedom, he foolishly believed this outside world would offer him a fresh start. But reality struck him with a devastating blow. Everyone recoiled in pure terror and absolute disgust at his monstrous appearance. They treated him like an absolute freak, running away as fast as they could. Right now, that mutated heart thumps wildly against his chest. It beats so violently, it feels ready to shatter his ribs and explode outward. Through years of crushing isolation, only his loyal stray dogs and the gentle Heejin had ever treated him like a real human. But now, even that tiny shred of warmth is ripped away. The blistering agony and fury he buried for 13 years erupts like a volcano. The surrounding blood violently surges toward him, churning and aggressively wrapping around his entire body. That so-called monstrous body begins rapidly mutating within the chaotic waves of blood, and piece by piece, it actually morphs back into a flawless human form. In a mere heartbeat, his entire physique is perfectly restored. He just stares blankly at his freshly regenerated hand. Blood surging through his veins feels exactly like returning to his long-lost childhood. But that youth was exactly where his darkest nightmare started. Now, this miraculous recovery only plunges him into an even deeper, freezing abyss. A heartbeat later, the horrifying truth strikes him. The cost of this restored power was his loyal dog's blood. The three street thugs have never witnessed something so terrifying. Their faces instantly turn as pale as sheets from absolute shock. The bald thug forces a tough act, brutally swinging his club at Kim Jiwoo's exposed back. In a flash, a devastating punch shatters the thug's face, sending blood exploding through the air. Kim Jiwoo remains completely expressionless, staring straight ahead. The bald thug violently launches backward, crashing heavily against the van. The solid metal frame instantly caves inward, knocking the trash out completely cold. Kneeling in the crimson puddle, Kim Jiwoo cradles the gravely wounded potato tightly against his chest. His chilling voice cuts like a razor blade. He knows the absolute most agonizing ways to die. The first one to speak gets to live. The remaining punks are paralyzed by absolute terror, not daring to twitch a single muscle. Kim Jiwoo coldly demands his answer. Where did they take Heejin? Meanwhile, three sleek vans break outside a desolate, abandoned warehouse. A bound woman sits with a dark hood completely covering her head. As the heavy fabric is violently yanked off, Sun-hee's terrified face is revealed. She has zero clue what is happening, or why she was suddenly abducted off the streets. She glances up to find over a dozen ruthless-looking thugs surrounding her, staring like hungry wolves. Sun-hee's expression instantly drops in pure horror. She has absolutely no idea where she is. Dead ahead sits a clinical hospital bed, where a gruesome, illegal organ harvesting operation is actively taking place. Suddenly, a massive hand violently yanks her by the hair. "You sure screamed loud enough, didn't you, woman? Almost shattered my eardrums." The massive boss glares down with vicious intent. "Are you really that eager to die? Not scared? We'll butcher you?" He violently whips out two photographs, marking test subject number 101. "Don't blame us for getting rough. Blame that disgusting freak. He's the bastard who dragged you into this deadly mess." He coldly warns Sun-hee, "If you want to keep breathing, keep your damn mouth shut. In this slaughterhouse, no one cares about your pathetic life, or how many corpses pile up." His chilling words nearly push Sun-hee into a complete mental breakdown. Suddenly, the boss's phone rings. He answers the call with deep irritation. "Why the hell are you calling instead of dragging him back?" From the speaker comes a string of totally unbelievable news. The pathetic stray dogs chewed right through the binding ropes. And worse, that skeletal test subject had miraculously transformed back into a human. The more the boss listens, the hotter his boiling rage grows. "What the absolute hell are you babbling about? Explain yourself clearly. What do you mean, what happened with those mutts?" The boss is completely baffled, but Sun-hee hears every single word loud and clear. Could those loyal stray dogs have actually shown up to save a life? Desperate to hear the unbelievable report, the massive boss squats down. "So, you let that skeleton escape. Is that it?" Receiving confirmation, the furious boss instantly roars. "You utterly useless piece of trash. Do you know how much that freak is worth?" A second later, he violently smashes his phone into pieces. Just before the screen cracked, he screamed his final threat. "You total idiots. If you can't capture him, prepare to die." He slowly shifts his terrifying gaze towards Sun-hee. "You clearly know where that skeleton went, right? Start talking. Where is he hiding? When Song Hae-ji refused to speak, the boss snapped. Talk, you brat. That guy is a walking goldmine. Tell me, and I will split the cash with you. Crushed by his killing intent, Song Hae-ji finally broke. I have no idea where that skeleton is. His patience shattered, the boss drew a wicked dagger from his waist. You do not know? Then let me carve the memories right back into your flesh. Staring at the gleaming steel, Song Hae-ji violently trembled. She was just an ordinary girl, completely unprepared for this suffocating level of underworld terror. She knew Kim Jiwoo was being hunted by dangerous men, but she never imagined the deadly reality of it would be this utterly horrific. Paralyzed by fear, she was helpless. But just as the boss lunged to strike, a dark silhouette violently blurred past his peripheral vision. He whipped his head around, shocked as one of his thugs was launched through the air like a rag doll, crashing hard into the wall. Everyone instantly froze. An intruder had just breached their stronghold. Standing at the warehouse entrance was a lone man in a tee, yet his overwhelming aura made it impossible to breathe. The boss scowled in confusion. He did not recognize this fierce young man at all, utterly baffled as to why this stranger was practically begging for a brutal death. Little did these arrogant fools know, this very young man was the ultimate prize they had been hunting this entire time. A clueless thug swaggered forward, mocking him. Who are you staring at, wearing those pathetic, trashed clothes? You are just a filthy beggar, yet you dare come here to cause trouble? In a flash, Kim Jiwoo instantly crushed the man's throat in his grip. The thug was choked, breathless, thick drool desperately spilling from his gasping mouth. Absolute terror filled his eyes. How could such a scrawny-looking kid possess the terrifying, bone-crushing grip strength of an absolute monster? Kim Jiwoo finally spoke, his voice echoing with an unnatural chill. Because of your greed, my dogs were slaughtered. I am not here to just cause trouble today. I am here to butcher every last one of you to serve as grave offerings for my dogs. Suddenly, two more enraged thugs fiercely charged at him. Even while suffocating, the trapped thug squeezed out enough desperate strength to land a solid punch right on Kim Jiwoo's face. But to Kim Jiwoo, that desperate strike felt like a gentle breeze. Against his newly awakened state, a normal human's power was utterly worthless. Without blinking, Kim Jiwoo raised his fist and ruthlessly shattered the man's jaw with a brutal punch. That explosive impact short-circuited the thug's brain, knocking him completely unconscious before he even hit the floor. Seizing the opening, another attacker grabbed Kim Jiwoo from behind, locking his shoulders in a tight hold. You dead meat, I finally caught you. A third thug viciously drove a knee straight into his gut, yet Kim Jiwoo barely flinched. Blood spilled from his lips, but the agonizing pain simply did not register. Instead, he brutally launched a forward headbutt. The sickening crack echoed as the thug's head violently snapped sideways. The massive impact instantly knocked him senseless. Even the brawler restraining his back was effortlessly tossed aside. This terrifying display stunned everyone. This was no ordinary human, but a walking disaster. Kim Jiwoo's chilling voice pierced the silence. None of you will leave this room alive today. You are all from Hermes Lab, are you not? The first to recognize him was Song Hae-ji. His cold gaze, his ruthless strikes, his chilling tone. It all felt so terrifyingly familiar that goosebumps erupted. She slowly aligned the phantom image of that skeleton with this human. At that exact moment, the boss finally recognized him. So, you are that freakish skeleton brat. You actually managed to morph back into a human, but your girl is in my hands. Do you really dare to make a move? Bang! A scorching bullet violently ripped straight through Kim Jiwoo's left arm. Despite his monstrous strength, he was still not faster than a bullet, nor could he endure the raw, tearing pain it caused. The boss erupted into maniacal laughter. You are such an idiot. You literally gift-wrapped yourself for us, and marched perfectly into my flawless execution trap. The surrounding thugs instantly drew their firearms and unleashed absolute hell upon Kim Jiwoo. Do not save a single bullet. This freak is a heart mutant. The moment the order dropped, a devastating storm of lead ripped into Kim Jiwoo's body. Within mere seconds, dozens of gruesome, blood-spraying craters erupted all across his flesh. They already knew about his monstrous regeneration abilities, so their tactical approach was sickeningly simple. Maintain endless suppressing fire so his cells could never mend. Newly knitted muscle was instantly shredded apart again, sending waves of bone-deep, piercing agony straight to his brain. But Kim Jiwoo refused to collapse. If he fell, Song Hae-ji would definitely die today. Hot lead mercilessly tore his flesh apart. His ribs fractured under the heavy kinetic impacts. Even his lungs were ruthlessly punctured, leaving him completely unable to pull in a single breath. Song Hae-ji completely shattered, desperately screaming out, "Please stop, do not shoot anymore." The very next second, Kim Jiwoo collapsed heavily onto the concrete. Yet, his mind remained terrifyingly, razor-sharp clear. As long as he could absorb fresh blood, he could reforge his broken vessel. With trembling effort, he dragged his mangled body forward inch by bloody inch. In a heart-stopping moment, he slammed his palm onto the ground, violently siphoning the crimson pools directly into his glowing fingertips. Soon, the massive puddles of harvested blood from the lab's previous victims began rapidly slithering toward Kim Jiwoo's ruined form. His mutated heart pounded wildly. Someone finally noticed the supernatural crimson phenomenon. "Boss, he regenerates by absorbing blood." As their desperate cries echo, Kim Jiwoo slowly rises to his feet like a waking demon. He has devoured enough crimson life force, becoming utterly unstoppable. Knowing hesitation means absolute death, the terrified thugs violently aim their weapons and frantically unleash a devastating storm of bullets. Kim Jiwoo feels every single round violently tearing into his flesh. The hot lead does not just pierce his skin. The bullets brutally shatter his bones, but his monstrous regeneration instantly repairs the damage, trapping him in an endless cycle of torment. Yet, the agony feels like a mere scratch. Compared to the hellish experiments the Institute forced upon him, this pain is an absolute joke. He previously survived boiling magma, melting his skin, and endured the soul-crushing agony of a hydraulic press shattering his body alive. Next to that nightmare, bullets feel like a gentle breeze. Kim Jiwoo explodes forward, smashing his fist into a thug's skull. The enemy violently launches backward like a broken ragdoll. Pathetic firearms cannot destroy him or spark fear in a man forged by ultimate agony. This terrifying display of power sends icy chills down everyone's spine. While they stand completely paralyzed by fear, Kim Jiwoo strikes with hurricane-like speed. Another thug desperately raises an arm to defend himself, but resistance is utterly futile. The devastating impact instantly shatters his bones into powder. With a sickening crack, the man rockets backward, cratering into the concrete wall. The remaining thugs freeze in terror at his godlike speed and absurd strength. In just a few breathtaking moves, Kim Jiwoo ruthlessly annihilates the remaining 3 attackers. Murderous fury blazes within Kim Jiwoo's eyes. Someone must pay in blood for the fallen dogs, and absolutely no one leaves here alive today. He violently blasts the warehouse thugs through the air one after another. He fiercely vows in his soul to never retreat a single inch, swearing to ruthlessly protect his loved ones from ever being hurt again. Now, only the terrified boss remains standing. Total panic consumes the boss as his voice violently cracks. "Back off, or I will execute your girlfriend." But before those cowardly words leave his mouth, Kim Jiwoo's fist obliterates his face with absolute, blinding speed. The overwhelming kinetic force completely paralyzes the boss's trigger finger. Ominous black lines viciously surge across Kim Jiwoo's furious face. This dark manifestation signals his absolute peak rage. With a thunderous boom, Kim Jiwoo punches him directly into the massive iron tank behind him. The boss's frail body instantly crumbles under the pressure, leaving a massive, terrifying dent permanently smashed into the thick metal tank. If the boss believes this nightmare is over, he is deadly wrong. Kim Jiwoo's imposing shadow slowly descends, swallowing the man's terrified face. Watching this absolute monster approach step by step, the boss mentally shatters. "Please spare my life. I admit my sins. I will do anything," he begs. But redemption is impossible now. The innocent dogs are gone, and their loyal souls demand vengeance. Showing zero mercy, Kim Jiwoo brutally caves in his face with a devastating punch. He instantly unleashes another heavy strike. His furious fists crash down like a relentless storm, completely pulverizing the man's face. His blazing wrath remains entirely unquenched. Within mere seconds, he delivers an endless barrage of heavy strikes, each punch viciously grinding deep into the enemy's broken flesh and shattered bones. The boss's face transforms into a horrifying, unrecognizable mass of ruined flesh. Only then does the blazing inferno of rage inside Kim Jiwoo slightly cool down. He slowly raises his trembling fist, absolutely drenched in his defeated enemy's crimson blood. Nobody could have ever predicted this lean youth would single-handedly slaughter these ruthless killers. The ruined, abandoned factory now serves as a graveyard for 7 or 8 mangled corpses. Standing amidst the total carnage, Kim Jiwoo exhales a heavy breath, allowing the violent storm inside his heart to finally settle down. Song Hae-ji calls out from the shadows, her voice violently shaking. "Mr. Skeleton, are you all right?" Kim Jiwoo slowly walks towards Song Hae-ji, step by step. However, his lingering killing intent remains far too cold and overwhelmingly terrifying. Even Song Hae-ji, who fully trusts him, cannot stop her body from shivering. "Are you really okay? You took so many bullets." Kim Jiwoo gently pulls Song Hae-ji into a tight embrace. "Thank heavens you are safe. I am so relieved." He loses the battle against his own emotions as helpless tears stream down his face. For Kim Jiwoo, her survival is the ultimate victory. Yet, the innocent dogs sacrificed their lives to protect him, driving agonizing spikes of guilt violently deep into his aching heart. Pure terror had consumed him. He was terrified that the sweet angel he just met would tragically die, too. He feels immense, soul-deep gratitude that Song Hae-ji survived this nightmare unharmed. Song Hae-ji looks up with gentle confusion. "Why are you thanking me? As she speaks, she warmly reaches out to return Kim Jiwoo's embrace. If anyone should be saying thank you, it absolutely must be me. I am the one who owes you my life. After escaping the slaughter, Kim Jiwoo quickly hides Song Hae-ji. Meanwhile, the bloody warehouse corpses immediately attract serious FBI attention. Song Hae-ji desperately urges Kim Jiwoo to escape immediately. Lingering in this bloody graveyard guarantees absolute disaster. In the blink of an eye, one tense hour quickly slips away. The tragic bodies of the brave dogs who saved Kim Jiwoo lie motionless on the ground. Song Hae-ji used to lovingly feed these sweet souls. Seeing their lifeless bodies, her heart shattered into pieces. Suddenly, Kim Jiwoo bit down hard on his finger, desperately dripping his glowing blood into the fallen dogs' mouths. Kim Jiwoo prayed they would absorb his legendary regenerative powers and rise from death, just like he always did. Song Hae-ji desperately grabbed his arm. "Stop, you are only forcing them to suffer even more." But Kim Jiwoo simply stared back, entirely lost. "They died because of me. Wouldn't they despise me?" Song Hae-ji softened her voice. "They would never blame you. They adored you too much." Those stray dogs naturally feared all humans, yet Kim Jiwoo had always been their one magical exception. The crushing truth struck him. These gentle creatures had spent their lives running, fiercely guarding their hearts against mankind. Song Hae-ji revealed their dark past. Their bodies carried brutal scars of abuse, permanently traumatized by far too many nightmarish memories of human cruelty. Kim Jiwoo froze in pure shock. He never knew their painful history, assuming they were just naturally affectionate beings. That is why Song Hae-ji warned him, "If you keep destroying yourself with guilt, those dogs will be absolutely devastated." The heavy burden finally lifted from his shoulders. Song Hae-ji flashed a brilliant smile. "They chose to approach you without a single hesitation. That is the truth. Maybe they sensed you survived similar nightmares. And tragically, she was right." Treated as a twisted lab rat for years, Kim Jiwoo possessed countless brutal scars across his flesh. He softly whispered a heartfelt thank you. Without her warm guidance, he would have forever misunderstood their pure loyalty. Suddenly, a fragile whimper echoed from the dark shadows behind him. They whipped around in surprise. A single, trembling puppy was miraculously still hiding within the wreckage. Kim Jiwoo instantly recognized the tiny survivor. It was Potato's precious pup. Song Hae-ji exhaled a massive breath of relief, thanking the heavens it had somehow survived the bloody massacre. The brave puppy walked toward Kim Jiwoo, step by step. It plopped down before Kim Jiwoo, its tail wagging uncontrollably. Completely baffled by this pure affection, he gently knelt down and whispered to it softly, "Do you not hate me? Your mother and your pack died because of my weakness." In response, the little pup simply licked his blood-stained finger. Kim Jiwoo completely froze. This fragile creature actually adored him. It peacefully curled up and fell asleep beside him, treating him as an ultimate sanctuary. Song Hae-ji felt deeply conflicted, entirely unsure of what their next move should be. Abandoning the pup was utterly impossible. Did she have to take it home? But if she brought the dog to her apartment, what would happen to Kim Jiwoo? Those ruthless laboratory hunters were definitely not your average street-level criminals. Panic setting in, Song Hae-ji urgently dialed her older sister. "I did exactly as you instructed. But now, I have absolutely no idea where we should hide." Ending the call with a sudden smile, Song Hae-ji totally baffled Kim Jiwoo. What epic secret had she secured to look so incredibly confident? After a quick tactical discussion, they ultimately decided to bring the miraculous puppy with them. Soon, they arrived at a secure apartment complex. Stepping inside, Kim Jiwoo gasped in pure awe at Song Hae-ji's flawlessly spotless and beautiful living space. He had never witnessed such a pristine room. "Can a dangerous monster like me truly step inside?" Song Hae-ji flashed a warm smile. "You literally risked your life to save mine. How could you ever be dangerous?" She excitedly added that her mysterious older sister desperately wanted to meet Kim Jiwoo. Her sister was investigating a massive case directly linked to the shadowy lab hunting him. Kim Jiwoo nodded stiffly, his eyes suddenly drawn toward a nearby mirror. The second he saw his reflection, his entire world stopped. That striking figure, was that truly him? Song Hae-ji jumped in absolute shock. "Why are you suddenly screaming out of nowhere?" How could she possibly understand his mind-bending shock? His monstrous form was gone. He now possessed flawless skin, sharp features, and an absurdly handsome face that felt like pure fantasy. Song Hae-ji froze in shock. "You didn't know your face had fully regenerated?" Of course, Kim Jiwoo had zero clue. His ruined face had never regenerated before. He stood completely paralyzed, staring at this stunning yet foreign reflection. Perhaps this breathtaking visage was his true adult form. As Song Hae-ji kept talking, the entire situation felt incredibly surreal. Staring intently at Kim Jiwoo, she realized he looked absolutely nothing like an old man. "Tell me the truth. Exactly how old are you? Even a rough guess works." Kim Jiwoo seriously counted on his fingers. He hadn't thought about his age in years. He was dragged into the hellish lab at 7 years old, and endured 7 brutal years of comprehensive torture tests. After breaking out, exactly 3 seasons had passed. Therefore, he should technically be 17 years and 2 months old right now. Hearing that shocking math, Song Hae-ji totally lost her mind and violently choked on her soda. She instantly bolted right in front of Kim Jiwoo. Wait, then we are exactly the same age. Why did you force me to call you uncle? Explain yourself right this second. Kim Jiwoo awkwardly averted his gaze. I just secretly loved it when you called me that. It finally made me feel like an actual human being. Song Hae-ji froze, her eyes wide with total shock. That heavy confession was equally infuriating and soul-crushing. Just what kind of hell had this boy survived? From that fateful day forward, they completely dropped the awkward formalities, finally calling each other by their true names. 10 minutes later, a full bowl of kibble is set out for Little Ears. And for Kim Jiwoo, a massive, steaming bowl of rice. The flavor explodes in his mouth. He has never tasted anything this heavenly. Watching him, Song Hae-ji smiles, looking slightly embarrassed. This is just soy sauce and egg over rice, she stammers. My cooking is not great, but I will grab you another bowl. However, Kim Jiwoo disagrees completely. To him, this is the absolute greatest meal of his entire life. A simple bowl of soy sauce egg rice, perfectly crafted by Song Hae-ji. Meanwhile, Song Hae-ji's older sister is nowhere to be seen. A sudden work emergency has kept her completely tied up at the office. Kim Jiwoo completely devours every single dish Song Hae-ji prepared. He licks the plates clean, not leaving a single grain of rice behind. As night falls, Song Hae-ji sets up a bed for Kim Jiwoo on the sofa. A literal paradise compared to the filthy garbage station. This sudden rush of happiness leaves him completely stunned. She even gently hands him a thick, cozy blanket. He has never experienced such gentle treatment in his life. Song Hae-ji flicks off the living room lights. She explains she has homework to finish in her own room, telling Kim Jiwoo to get some rest first. Song Hae-ji then quietly closes her bedroom door. Kim Jiwoo stands alone in the living room, completely unsure of where to place his trembling hands. His wide eyes sweep across the unfamiliar room. Like a stray wandering into a modern city, he stares blankly at every single magical detail. Right before him sits a massive, paper-thin television screen. Even more unbelievable, they actually grow beautiful living flowers indoors. He has only witnessed such miracles outside the cold laboratory. He cautiously sinks onto the sofa, its plush cushions feeling unbelievably soft to the touch. Are regular sofas always this incredibly soft? Far softer than the rigid, metallic lab beds. Suddenly, Little Ears knocks over his bowl, coughing harshly as if the kibble is dangerously lodged in his throat. Kim Jiwoo violently whips his head around. Is the tiny puppy going to survive? Little Ears coughs up a few kibbles, but still looks completely miserable. Kim Jiwoo feels his heart plummet into his stomach. If this fragile puppy chokes to death, it is all completely over. He violently throws off his blanket and sprints across the room. But dropping to his knees, he completely freezes. Little Ears is perfectly fine. The pup simply lowers its head and happily resumes chewing. It even glances up, tilting its tiny head in total confusion. Only after ensuring the puppy is completely safe, does Kim Jiwoo finally exhale a massive breath of relief. Thank heavens, it is just a false alarm. He places Little Ears right beside his pillow, happily sharing the warm bed together. He quietly whispers how delightfully warm and soft the sofa feels. Meanwhile, Little Ears just playfully wanders all over the plush cushions. Little Ears has also survived on the unforgiving streets for ages. Their tragic pasts are absolutely, frighteningly identical. Kim Jiwoo stares deeply at the adorable furball, debating on a grand name. However, Little Ears sounds absolutely perfect, and the tiny puppy clearly loves the cute title. So, from this moment on, that is its official name. Slowly, Little Ears drifts into a heavy slumber, completely lost in sweet, peaceful dreams. A profound, glowing warmth blooms inside Kim Jiwoo's chest. Perhaps, this amazing feeling is what normal people call happiness. Today, he feasted on a genuine meal and bathed under steaming hot water. He has absolutely never experienced such incredible luxuries before. His mind dares to fantasize about a permanent future here. If he can just stay alongside Song Hae-ji and Little Ears forever, it would be pure, absolute paradise. Sleeping in a place this unbelievably soft is a magical dream he never once dared to imagine before. Yet, a dark realization chills his spine. This fragile piece could be violently snatched away at any second. To protect this paradise, he has only one option. He must become stronger. His mind sinks into dark memories. Back then, he and several trusted companions plotted a desperate escape together. They were mere inches from the exit. If they could just breach those metal doors, they could finally live as free humans. But at the final second, a terrifying squad blocked their path. They were heart stage mutants of at least A rank, and facing them demanded extreme, life-or-death caution. Following a deafening, earth-shattering explosion, jagged stones rained down upon them like a devastating storm. Tragically, countless escaping companions were instantly crushed to death beneath the violently collapsing rubble. Elsewhere, a heavily armed guard leveled a laser cannon directly at them. Lethal energy surged, and scorching flames erupted from the barrel. They wanted to burn everyone alive. However, just as the merciless guards smirked in triumph, the tides violently changed. A female escapee forcefully unleashed her ice awakening, throwing up a glacier to block the raging inferno. Meanwhile, a battered Kim Jiwoo was teetering on the edge of unconsciousness. As his vision faded to black, a desperate hand grabbed his shoulder. The brave figure screamed at him to stay awake. The battlefield was incredibly dangerous. If he passed out now, he would be forcefully captured all over again. The wounded man beside him begged him to hold on, screaming that absolute freedom waited just beyond the gates. Hearing the sacred word freedom, a miraculous surge of adrenaline violently reignited Kim Jiwoo's exhausted body. Simultaneously, the ice-wielding woman up front extended her hand to pull him. "Push forward! The exit is right there!" she roared, securely gripping his trembling arm. Staring at the glowing exit just steps away, his very soul shook with pure anticipation. Their years of agonizing suffering were finally about to reach a thrilling conclusion. 7 or 8 of them had desperately escaped together, but a devastating twist of fate separated them at the final moment. For 3 agonizing years, absolute silence. Kim Jiwoo carried that crushing guilt deep within his shattered heart. If only they were still by his side right now. Maybe they were still out there somewhere, hoping he was alive. Once he awakened enough power, he would hunt down every last one of them. Until then, he absolutely refused to let Song Hae-ji and Little Ears be ripped away from him. One nightmare like that was enough. Even if this fragile piece was just a fleeting illusion, he would defend this tiny slice of happiness with his absolute last breath. Nobody was allowed to shatter his sanctuary, and absolutely nobody was allowed to lay a single finger on his friends. Murderous intent fiercely blazes in his dark eyes. Those twisted bastards from the lab? He guarantees not a single one of them will survive. The second he masters his dormant strength, he will unleash absolute hell for revenge. When that day arrives, he will tear down the lab and rescue everyone left behind. The scene cuts to the very next morning, and Jiwoo's terrified scream practically shatters the peaceful silence of the entire city street. He sprints wildly down the concrete pavement, his frantic footsteps echoing as if he is desperately running for his own damn life. Hot tears endlessly stream down his panicked face. Little Ears, where the hell are you? He had finally found a loyal companion, and he absolutely refuses to lose another soul. No matter the bloody cost, he has to track down Little Ears. He violently tears through every single alleyway. Yet, Little Ears is completely gone. Earlier that morning, Song Hae-ji had left for her academic classes. She mentioned her older sister would return tonight, firmly ordering Kim Jiwoo to stay hidden inside and keep a close guard on the house. The sheer thought of meeting a total stranger makes Jiwoo instinctively freeze in fear. Shortly after, Song Hae-ji waves her goodbye and heads out. Jiwoo feels a bitter wave of envy. A normal place like school sounds incredibly magical. Right then, their newly adopted pup, Little Ears, desperately scratches to go outside. But Hae-ji knew sneaking a pet into a strict academy would cause massive trouble. To keep the energetic little furball from dying of total boredom, Kim Jiwoo nervously suggests that he brave the outside world and walk the dog himself. Song Hae-ji immediately hesitates with deep concern. What if those dangerous pursuers finally track him down? Jiwoo confidently promises her everything will be completely fine. Every single enemy who saw his true face has already been permanently silenced. With his new disguise, the shadows will absolutely never recognize him. Hae-ji weighs the heavy risks and eventually realizes his solid logic. Reluctantly, she allows Jiwoo to take Little Ears outside for a quick, safe adventure. She sternly points at a thick leash hanging inside the cabinet. You can step outside, but you absolutely must keep this securely fastened. However, Jiwoo never expects the tiny pup to violently thrash and resist the restricting leash. Before her departure, Hae-ji repeatedly warns him that walking without a leash invites deadly danger for Little Ears. But watching the poor creature frantically struggle, Jiwoo's scarred heart clenches in absolute agonizing pain. Is it entirely possible that Little Ears feels completely suffocated by this cruel tether too? Or did he secure the collar way too tight? His swirling thoughts only amplify his overwhelming, suffocating guilt. Little Ears recently lost its mother to tragedy, and now Jiwoo is causing the baby pain. The mother dog saved his life, so the absolute least he can do is loosen the brutal hold. Because he spent years chained up like a lab rat, he instinctively shares a deep, traumatic empathy with the bound animal. But during his momentary hesitation, the clever pup instantly slips out of the restraint and aggressively chomps down on a random pedestrian's pant leg. Jiwoo finally makes a firm decision, preparing to completely ditch the leash and just carry the squirming dog safely in his protective arms. But the second he looks down, Little Ears vanishes like a ghost, having miraculously wriggled completely free from the tight collar. A massive shockwave hits his heart, and his breathing spirals into total chaos. Did the traumatized pup run away to escape, exactly like he did? Without a second thought, he desperately sprints down the exact path the tiny fugitive took. He dreads the terrifying reality. If he loses this friend too, what endless hell will consume him next? Meanwhile, tasting true freedom, Little Ears dashes through the bustling city streets in a wild frenzy of pure joy. Its ultimate destination is the academy. The loyal pup is determined to track down Song Hae-ji. Meanwhile, Jiwoo is trapped in a waking nightmare. There is absolutely zero trace of the tiny animal anywhere on the chaotic streets. He frantically digs through disgusting dumpsters, yet the pup remains missing in action. After hours of agonizing searching yield absolutely nothing, Jiwoo stands on the extreme brink of a total mental collapse. How in the world will he face Hae-ji tonight with this devastating news? The darker his swirling thoughts turn, the more paralyzing his terror becomes. Hae-ji's warnings were absolutely correct. Dragging the vulnerable pup into the open world was a fatal mistake. If that innocent puppy gets crushed by traffic, Jiwoo swears he will lose his only remaining reason to keep breathing. If vile traffickers snatch it off the streets, the horrific fate is worse than death. Just yesterday, he swore a sacred oath to fiercely protect it. Now, the very next day, it is completely gone. Suddenly, he snaps his head up and spots a massive school looming ahead. His mind races. Hae-ji attends an academy. Could this be the exact one? Just as hope flickers, he spots a familiar, tiny silhouette, casually scratching its fluffy ear. When the creature turns around, Jiwoo's eyes widen in pure disbelief. It is Little Ears. Without hesitation, he fiercely sprints straight toward his lost friend. Now that he successfully recovered his precious family, he absolutely refuses to let it escape again. The clever dog must have tracked Hae-ji's familiar scent all the way here. He darted behind an oak tree, watching the students pass by. A raw, unfamiliar envy painted his hidden face. Everyone looked so carefree. Suddenly, hushed whispers about heart mutants caught his sharp attention. He turned his gaze. 3 students were huddled over a video, claiming heart mutants were born from twisted experiments. The video flashed a brutal wanted poster. Turning in an unregistered mutant offered a 100 million reward, exposing the blood-soaked underworld of mutant organ trafficking. Kim Jiwoo scoffed in the shadows. So this was exactly how the outside world viewed their kind. He tightened his fists. He had to stay invisible, find Little Ears, and vanish without a trace. Moments later, he finally spotted Little Ears. The tiny pup was trailing behind 3 girls, who instantly squealed with absolute delight at the sight of him. They squealed as they swarmed the tiny dog. He is just way too adorable. They scooped up Little Ears for a quick selfie. But the second the camera flashed, Kim Jiwoo stepped right into their frame. The 3 girls jumped back. "Who are you? Some kind of creepy stalker?" Kim Jiwoo immediately apologized. "I am sorry. I did not mean to startle you at all, and I am definitely no stalker. Please forgive my intrusion. That little puppy beside you is actually mine. His name is Little Ears." But to Kim Jiwoo's utter shock, the moment his voice faded, the 3 girls fell into a dead, stunned silence. Their eyes were glued to Kim Jiwoo's school uniform. He wore the first-year colors, yet this striking face was completely unknown to them. A new transfer student. Kim Jiwoo shifted awkwardly, carefully asking if they had just used their phones to snap his picture. Instead of getting upset, the 2 girls practically vibrated with intense excitement. "We totally were taking your picture just now. Could we please get a group selfie? You are just way too ridiculously handsome." Kim Jiwoo instantly rejected them, explaining he absolutely could not be filmed. But right then, a manicured hand thrust a glowing phone directly into his face. "Hand over your social accounts." The commanding voice belonged to the ultimate school beauty. Her 2 sidekicks froze in absolute shock. After all, Min Jang had never once proactively chased a boy for his socials. If someone was claimed by her, their followers would skyrocket. Min Jang was a massive influencer boasting 100,000 followers. Min Jang was already celebrating her victory inside. This mysterious guy was devastatingly handsome, and even his nervous shyness was undeniably adorable. Parading him around would be the ultimate power move. But Kim Jiwoo flatly stated he had no socials. "I am truly sorry." Min Jang's flawless brow twitched into a frown. Was he seriously rejecting her that bluntly? In this modern era, who on earth could possibly survive without a single social media profile? Kim Jiwoo did not even let her process the shock. He bowed deeply. "I am honored by your attention, but I must respectfully decline." Her 2 lackeys gasped, their jaws hitting the floor. This was the very first time the untouchable Min Jang had been ruthlessly rejected to her face. Even Min Jang felt her perfect facade violently crack. She had actually lowered herself to make the first move, only to be tossed aside like trash. Was her legendary beauty seriously losing its magnetic charm? Without hesitation, Kim Jiwoo smoothly snatched little ears right out of Minjong's arms. He bowed in deep gratitude. Thank you so much for keeping my precious puppy safe. Minjong's internal rage boiled over. I am a literal goddess, yet I cannot even compete with a scruffy dog. But Kim Jiwoo remained completely oblivious. A short distance away, a boy glared with burning intensity. He had already marked this newcomer as his ultimate romantic rival. The jealous guy swung his leg viciously. A soccer ball launched like a missile straight at Kim Jiwoo's head. The strike was lightning fast, catching him totally off guard. Bam! The ball slammed brutally into his face. The attacker strutted over wearing a disgustingly fake apology, deliberately fawning over the school beauty first just to mock him. Meanwhile, he refused to even toss Kim Jiwoo a single shred of respect. Kim Jiwoo barked out, freezing him in his tracks. Are you completely blind? That reckless stunt was lethal. My puppy was almost crushed. You need to apologize to my dog, right this second. The bully erupted into mocking laughter. You seriously want me to apologize to a dog? A second later, he frantically covered his mouth. Minjong was standing right there, and he could not risk looking terrible while laughing. He flat out refused to apologize. Instead, he mockingly told Kim Jiwoo to run to the nurse. Last time someone took a soccer ball to the face, their nose bridge completely shattered. Kim Jiwoo coldly stated he was perfectly fine, but his precious puppy was almost violently injured. He warned the jerk to watch his aim next time. The bully nodded with dripping sarcasm. Okay, chill out, man. I am so sorry. Dogs are just super precious, right? Kim Jiwoo accepted the fake apology. After all, he truly did not have a single scratch. The tense conflict seemed to fizzle out. Kim Jiwoo spun around, cuddling little ears to finally head home. But the second he vanished, the bully venomously ordered his lackeys to dig up the newcomer's background. He absolutely despised Kim Jiwoo's arrogant attitude. Meanwhile, Kim Jiwoo walked away feeling strangely uplifted. Despite almost losing his dog, disaster was averted. Plus, he had finally witnessed hundreds of normal teenagers experiencing regular high school life. A bittersweet thought crossed his mind. If he had never been subjected to those nightmare experiments, could he have enjoyed a normal school life and made real friends too? But suddenly, a menacing voice called out from behind. The same bully who kicked the ball suddenly caught up, aggressively throwing a heavy arm around his shoulder. Hey man, I am truly sorry about what happened earlier. Kim Jiwoo entirely misunderstands friendship. The punk claims being in the same grade automatically makes them best friends. He fakes feeling awful about the stray ball hitting Kim Jiwoo, offering to buy him bread as an apology. Kim Jiwoo asks if he is truly serious. The punk smirks, promising that even the tiny dog in Kim Jiwoo's arms will get fed too, leading him straight into a dark, secluded corner. The very next second, he violently kicks Kim Jiwoo. Freezing in utter confusion, Kim Jiwoo wonders what is happening. Why did this guy just attack him? Looking up, Kim Jiwoo realizes he is surrounded by 3 thugs with vicious eyes. Are you actually stupid? We said we would buy you bread, and you genuinely believed it. They reveal their true colors. They prepare to feed him their heavy fists instead. Glancing around, Kim Jiwoo spots over a dozen gang members lurking nearby. They angrily demand why Kim Jiwoo dared to provoke their boss's girlfriend. Kim Jiwoo curses bitterly under his breath. He foolishly believed this guy genuinely wanted friendship, but it turns out the punk is just hunting for trouble. He turns to leave, refusing to waste a single breath on them, but the gang leader blocks his path. Do you really think this is a place where you can just walk away freely? Suppressing his rising fury, Kim Jiwoo orders them to step aside. You guys already terrified my little dog just now. The very second he finishes speaking, the thug in green raises a heavy hand to violently slap him. Judging by that vicious swing, he is obviously aiming straight for little ears. Instantly, Kim Jiwoo unleashes a devastating punch, sending him flying. Everyone is completely stunned. What the hell? He is that insanely strong? Even the bread-offering punk stands completely paralyzed in shock. He only saw Kim Jiwoo raise his hand slightly, and his loyal underling instantly became a flying projectile. 3 furious thugs rush him simultaneously. What the hell did you just do to our brother? Yet through Kim Jiwoo's eyes, their pathetic movements crawl in slow motion. He can barely bother to spare them a single glance. However, today, pure wrath boils within him because they threatened his dog. The next second, Kim Jiwoo's heart gives a massive thump. Instantly, multiple bodies are launched through the air with such terrifying speed that no one can even track the path of his brutal punches. Kim Jiwoo locks his devastating fist onto the boss's face. Yet, right before the lethal strike connects, he abruptly stops. Shifting his trajectory, he violently smashes his fist downward, intentionally striking the solid brick wall right beside the man's head. The concrete wall instantly shatters, sending jagged fragments exploding outward in a terrifying display. I already warned you to stop, but you refused to listen. You literally scared my dog half to death. At this chilling moment, everyone realizes they are not facing a human, but an absolute monster. A legendary beast capable of obliterating a solid brick wall with his bare hands. Abandoning their fallen boss without hesitation, they turn and sprint away. The boss sits utterly paralyzed in terror. He has never witnessed such overwhelming strength. He slumps onto the cold ground, violently trembling. Had that monstrous punch landed, his fragile bones definitely would have shattered. The more this terrifying reality sinks in, the harder he shakes, realizing he provoked a sleeping dragon he never should have crossed. Completely abandoning his pathetic pride, he drops to his knees, begging for mercy, swearing he will never dare disrespect a dog again. Desperate, he shamelessly shoves all the blame onto his cowardly underlings. They were the evil ones who wanted to strike the puppy. I swear I did not. I have a dog at home too. I genuinely love dogs. Kim Jiwoo stares him down. Sensing he actually does own a dog, Kim Jiwoo realizes he is not completely rotten. Suddenly, Kim Jiwoo's empty stomach violently growls. He only unleashed a tiny fraction of his power, yet he is completely starving. Neither he nor Little Ears have eaten a single bite today. The terrified boss feels utterly miserable. Who gets hungry during a deadly turf war? Is he seriously expected to buy this monster food? Then a chilling realization hits him. There is no way this is a coincidence. Kim Jiwoo is clearly pretending to show mercy while ruthlessly extorting food. What a terrifying mastermind. Meanwhile, in a completely separate location hidden from this chaos, Sunhae sits in his classroom doing daily homework. Moments later, Longhair orders a massive mountain of premium snacks and bread. He watches in pure awe as Kim Jiwoo ravenously devours the feast. Longhair feels intense, secondhand embarrassment. Has this guy literally never eaten real food before? Yet the absolute truth is, Kim Jiwoo has never tasted such heavenly bread. It even features hidden chunks of sweet strawberry inside. A freezing chill creeps into Longhair's heart. This boy is absurdly overpowered, yet he reacts to simple snacks like a complete simpleton. Slipping away, he secretly dials a notorious thug. This massive enforcer is heavily built, and Longhair desperately needs him to come absolutely crush Kim Jiwoo. In exchange for this brutal favor, Longhair desperately promises a massive payout later. After a brief, sinister exchange, the hulking giant eagerly accepts. Longhair sneers viciously in his mind. Just wait for your inevitable death. Turning back, he catches Kim Jiwoo gently feeding ham to the puppy, but stares at his hands. Not a single battle scar on them. The longer he stares, the stranger it feels. Not even a legendary professional boxer possesses such flawless skin. A terrifying theory suddenly strikes his mind. This kid must be a hidden mutant. He drops the accusation without warning, startling Kim Jiwoo so badly, he spits out his cola. Jiwoo frantically denies the claim, swearing he isn't a heart mutant. But to the long-haired guy, this panicked reaction just screams pure guilt. Longhair covers his mouth in absolute shock. This is his very first time standing before a real heart mutant. No wonder Kim Jiwoo felt so completely different from normal people. He instantly messages the thug, terrified his boss might blindly walk into a death trap. But the thug actually trembles with dark excitement, hearing the words heart mutant. Longhair frantically warns him to stay away from this life-threatening danger. To his absolute horror, the thug orders him to trap the mutant right there. Right then, Kim Jiwoo finishes his meal and turns to walk away. There is no way Longhair can let him escape. Desperate to stall until his boss arrives, he drags Jiwoo straight into a bustling arcade. After a few matches, Kim Jiwoo smiles with pure joy. He has never stepped inside an arcade before. Jiwoo sincerely believes Longhair is being a great friend, happily following him to the claw machines. But Longhair knows this entire friendship is just a stalling tactic. Once the boss arrives, Kim Jiwoo is dead. Keeping up the act, he leads Jiwoo to karaoke. Kim Jiwoo is totally tone-deaf, but he still belts out the entire song from start to finish. Longhair brutally roasts his terrible singing, but it is the only children's melody Jiwoo knows. He was torn away from his family at just 7 years old. His mother taught him that lullaby right before they were separated. After that tragic day, he never lived a normal life, nor learned another song. Longhair's conscience takes a violent hit. Losing his family at 7 and robbed of a normal childhood? What kind of hell has this guy survived? He feels sick. Is this how all heart mutants are forced to live? Kim Jiwoo's tragic past strikes him hard. What kind of monster is he, plotting against such an innocent soul? He suddenly slams down every single dollar he has. Today, I am blowing all my cash so you can experience one beautifully normal day. I will show you the real world. Fired up, they dive into the rhythm drum games. They clash in Street Fighter, though Kim Jiwoo fails to win a single round. Eventually, exhaustion catches up to Jiwoo, and even Longhair feels totally wiped out. Burning through that mountain of game tokens took a massive toll. Suddenly, the boss's name flashes angrily on Longhair's vibrating phone. Reality hits Longhair like a freight train. He was supposed to trap Kim Jiwoo until his boss arrived to beat him half to death. Instead, he got completely lost in their genuine fun and forgot the trap. He even took dozens of goofy photos with his target. Against all odds, Longhair actually experienced true happiness today. He hurriedly pushes Kim Jiwoo away to say goodbye. It is getting late. Go home. I will treat you again some other time. Longhair heads out to face the ruthless thug. He drops into a deep, polite bow. I am sorry. I made a mistake. He is not a heart mutant. But the boss smirks with pure malice. Are you screwing with me? Instantly, vicious punches rain down on Longhair. Too terrified to defend himself, he curls up trembling on the concrete. But the bloodthirsty thug refuses to show an ounce of mercy. Cut the garbage. Where is the mutant? Longhair begged through bloody teeth. I swear, I spent the whole day with him. He is completely normal. If he had monstrous powers, I would have sensed his terrifying aura hours ago. He is just a pathetic weakling on the dance machine. 2 jumps in, and he was gasping for air like a dying fish. The thug's patience snaps, furious over a wasted trip. He violently grabs Longhair by the collar. Spit it out. Why did you suddenly change your pathetic story? The boss even bribes him with $5,001 to expose Kim Jiwoo's location. But Longhair completely rejects the dirty cash. Refusing to sell out his newfound friend, he gasps. Please believe me, he is just an ordinary guy. A brutal kick crashes into Longhair's stomach. So you refuse to listen, huh? The devastating impact knocks Longhair breathless. Sneering, the thug wraps a heavy iron chain around his knuckles. If this punk keeps hiding the truth, he is going to leave in a body bag. Yet Longhair clenches his bloody teeth, refusing to break. He is ordinary. Why are you hunting an innocent kid? The thug's eyes turn deadly cold. Right, I understand completely. You just want to die. Roaring, he swings his steel-wrapped fist down, but in a split second, an unstoppable grip seizes his wrist. That jagged iron chain is thicker than a human thumb, covered in rusted welding spurs. One strike would shred skin and leave agonizing, infected wounds. Longhair's eyes widen in terror. Why did he come back? Kim Jiwoo crouches down calmly. I came looking for you. You hung out with me all day, so I came to say thank you. Panicking, Longhair screams at him to run. These are absolute monsters. They are lethal street thugs. I am the one who called them here specifically to destroy you. He confesses his entire betrayal, screaming that he exposed Jiwoo as a heart mutant. Staring at his battered friend, Jiwoo only asks, why? Longhair freezes. Silence hangs for 2 or 3 agonizing seconds. Finally, he whispers in shame, because I was furious. You punched me. I am really sorry. But Kim Jiwoo ignores the apology. He glares at the bloody chain and asks, why do you let them strike you with that? The thug's gaze darkens with instant fury. Longhair stares in utter confusion. You still care about that now? Suddenly, a brutal club smashes mercilessly into Kim Jiwoo's back from behind. In a flash, 5 thugs pin Kim Jiwoo to the concrete, raining down a savage storm of kicks. A masked thug erupts into wicked laughter. You are that heart mutant, right? How stupid to walk straight into our deadly trap. But Kim Jiwoo ignores the mocking words. He simply extends his fingers, instantly absorbing the spilled blood directly from the ground. Instantly, Kim Jiwoo shatters the man's jaw with a devastating punch. That single casual blow sends him flying, leaving every nearby thug completely paralyzed with fear. In barely 2 or 3 minutes, Kim Jiwoo effortlessly decimates every last one of his cowardly attackers. These pathetic street thugs are never even worthy of being his true opponents. Seizing a blind spot, the gang boss plunges a blade straight into Kim Jiwoo's heart. But Kim Jiwoo stands perfectly still, welcoming the lethal strike. Only when the boss's hand trembles with total exhaustion does Kim Jiwoo firmly grasp the bloody blade. Stop stabbing me. I will never die. He violently snatches the weapon and drives it deep into the boss's thigh, forcing him to taste the sheer agony of his own blade. The terrified survivors turn to flee. Yet Kim Jiwoo's demonic figure instantly materializes, completely blocking their escape route. They have uncovered his mutant secret, so there is no way he can let them leave alive. 3 minutes later, the battlefield falls dead silent, with no one left standing. Longhair, whose face is now a battered and swollen mess, slowly crawls toward Kim Jiwoo. You got stabbed just now. Are you okay? Kim Jiwoo brushes it off. The fatal wound has already miraculously healed itself. Longhair is completely dumbstruck. He truly is a mutant monster. Even his healing factor is absolutely outrageous. Lowering his bruised head, he whispers a shameful apology. I betrayed you. I do not deserve to be your friend. Kim Jiwoo offers no grand explanation. He simply tosses a small cloth toward him. You are bleeding. Wipe your face first. Longhair instantly recognizes it as a puppy's pee pad and curses inwardly. This guy is a total bastard. Still, he grits his teeth and wipes himself. I truly do not deserve Kim Jiwoo's friendship. Selling him out behind his back like a filthy coward. Kim Jiwoo chuckles warmly. Hearing that sincere guilt actually makes him genuinely happy instead. Looks like I am not the only one considering us friends. For me, that is enough. That single sentence completely shatters Longhair's emotional defenses, making him burst into tears. The humiliating pee-pad no longer matters. He throws an arm around Kim Jiwoo's shoulder and wails, I truly wronged you today. But thank you for actually forgiving my betrayal. You are seriously the absolute coolest. Just as Kim Jiwoo finishes sweeping the bloody aftermath, Sunhae comes sprinting toward them. The second Longhair spots her, his entire body freezes solid. He never imagined his ultimate goddess actually knows Kim Jiwoo. Longhair's fragile heart shatters. Did you not say you had no friends? You massive liar. At that moment, Kim Jiwoo turns to Sunhae. I want to hunt the middleman. But Sunhae immediately blocks his path firmly. She warns that they specialize in hunting heart mutants. They are not human. They are absolute lunatics. Rumor says many middlemen are actually mutants themselves. That dark warning only amplifies Kim Jiwoo's burning desire to face them. His friends remain baffled. Why is he so determined to track him? Kim Jiwoo awkwardly scratches his cheek. The dark truth is, he harbors deeply selfish reasons. An unbreakable thread links him to the middleman, tracing back to when his true companions were brutally separated. Perhaps through this shady broker, he can finally reunite with those scattered friends. Longhair presses him again. Did you not just say you had 0 friends? So where did this hidden crew suddenly spawn from? Have you been lying this entire time? Kim Jiwoo's expression instantly darkens. In this outside world, I truly have absolutely no one. But inside that hellish lab, I had true comrades who survived alongside me. That cursed laboratory offered nothing but endless days of agonizing pain and cruel psychological experiments. Then one fateful day, he was forcefully dragged to an unfamiliar hell. The journey was agonizingly long, and he trembled endlessly, his young mind consumed by pure terror. He assumed they had devised another cruel torture method. Instead, they violently hurled him into a steel chamber, overflowing with deadly swords and throwing knives. Gazing at those gleaming blades, young Kim Jiwoo had absolutely no idea this nightmare was his designated testing ground. He possessed 0 warning of the incoming bloodbath. Only after suffering the brutal strikes firsthand did he truly comprehend that hellish agony. Cold steel pierced his fragile flesh again and again, repeatedly shredding his body. Afterward, the guards violently shoved him toward a heavy door, ordering him inside immediately. Lacking any power to resist, his trembling hands reached forward and slowly pushed the door open. As the heavy hinges creaked, Kim Jiwoo completely froze. Inside stood several battered children in identical lab uniforms, and each one radiated an intimidating, otherworldly power. It was undeniable. The surviving children standing there were exactly like him, all awakened heart mutants. Right then, Kim Jiwoo's gaze froze completely. He watched a hand reach toward him, and from that stranger's empty palm, a deadly blade materialized out of thin air. The mysterious boy violently leaped forward, reaching Kim Jiwoo in an absolute instant. The ruthless weapon slashed downward. A freezing chill struck Kim Jiwoo's spine. Sure, his immortality prevented death, but he definitely refused to suffer pointless agony. With a violent whoosh, the descending blade was split right down the middle, shattering into 2 useless pieces. Before Kim Jiwoo could even react, a massive ice shield erupted from the ground, forcefully blocking the consecutive strike. The armed boy glared with absolute ferocity. His burning eyes demanded to hack Kim Jiwoo into bloody pieces right there. But Kim Jiwoo was utterly confused. How had he provoked this sudden wrath? Was his terrifying skeletal face the issue? And a young girl had conjured that icy barrier? She stomped right past the armed attacker, immediately throwing a heavy punch at his shoulder. What are you thinking? Are you totally insane? Is he not a monster? You idiot. Obviously, he is no monster. She raised her hand and pointed sharply. Check out his experimental uniform. Are you blind? He shares our cruel fate. He is just another trapped test subject. The next moment only amplified Kim Jiwoo's desperate urge to flee. A massive crowd of children swarmed his position, their wide eyes burning with intense curiosity. They had truly encountered a living, breathing skeleton. Plagued by extreme social anxiety, Kim Jiwoo froze under their heavy gazes, completely clueless on how to react. He instantly shielded his terrifying face with trembling hands. Please, stop looking at me. Do not look at this hideous monster. However, nobody cared about his desperate plea. They simply remained planted, staring directly at his bizarre form. Then a gentle voice broke the silence. Do not panic. You honestly look incredibly cool. Your skeletal appearance just proves your mutant awakening. Kim Jiwoo felt utterly paralyzed by shock. These kids showed 0 fear toward a horrifying, talking skeleton. Moments later, the entire group eagerly introduced themselves, radiating genuine joy. Today, their tragic family gained another friend. We sincerely apologize for calling you a skeleton earlier. What is your real name? For the very first time, Kim Jiwoo tasted the beautiful warmth of having genuine friends. He had never experienced such profound acceptance. Later, he discovered this hellish facility collected innocent child test subjects transferred from multiple sinister laboratories. Perhaps because they all suffered identical, horrific torture behind bars, an unbreakable bond formed between them almost instantly. Cruel classes happened barely a few times annually, heavily restricting their reunions. Yet with every rare encounter, they cherished their fleeting connection deeply. Back in the present, Kim Jiwoo suddenly hears dramatic, overwhelming sobbing. What kind of completely tragic life have you survived? Just listening to your nightmare makes me lose my will to live. Songhai tearfully asks Kim Jiwoo where his friends are today, but he slowly shakes his head. When they violently escaped that hellish laboratory together, chaotic forces tore everyone apart. With an overwhelming swarm of armed guards everywhere, scattering remains their absolute only chance at survival. Songhai finally grasps the heavy truth. So, your absolute obsession with hunting down this shady middleman stems from that painful separation? Those vile traffickers probably set their sights on your vulnerable friends, right? Deep emotional resolve strikes both allies. We genuinely pray you rescue your family. We pledge our full support to your mission. Longhair instantly pulls out the defeated thug's phone. He correctly gambles the middleman's contact data sits right inside. Almost instantly, Longhair uncovers the dark chat history. Their sinister operation demands capturing Kim Jiwoo tonight at exactly 7 o'clock for a direct handover. The clock violently ticks dangerously close to 7. Meanwhile, 3 sleek luxury vehicles idle ominously outside an abandoned warehouse. A brutal gang wielding deadly blades aggressively swarms a lone man. Yet, this mysterious target treats their lethal assault like an absolute joke. With lightning-fast twists, he flawlessly dodges every desperate slash. Instantly, a terrifying black void manifests right inside his open palm. He slowly draws a sinister longsword straight from the darkness. Delivering one casually devastating swing, multiple attackers crash lifelessly onto the concrete. Your pathetic knife skills completely insult true martial arts. A real blade flows like this. He clearly exists on an entirely different, godlike level than them. Surprisingly, the rival boss displays zero panic, proudly aiming a loaded firearm right at the swordsman. Yet the exact millisecond he squeezes the trigger, an invisible sword strike slices the gun flawlessly in half. The terrified boss shakes violently in pure horror. This monster standing before him radiates the overwhelming aura of a natural disaster. The swordsman chuckles darkly. Master the blade, and solid steel cuts like mere paper. This devastating power represents his awakened mutant ability, the Heart Sword. Within minutes, he completely slaughters every single enemy present. Right then, his phone vibrates with an urgent message. The exact instant his sharp eyes scan the glowing text, a dangerous glint narrows his gaze. The text roughly commands, the target is officially secured. Drop your exact coordinates, and we execute the brutal exchange immediately. Shortly after, Kim Jiwoo stealthily navigates deep into a shadowy alleyway. A suffocating, oppressive chill crushes the air, screaming that a terrifying entity waits ahead. He sharply scans his dark surroundings. This must be the meeting spot. Only a handful of agonizing minutes remain before the treacherous middleman finally reveals himself. Kim Jiwoo vividly remembers the mutant trafficker's sinister warning. The mysterious buyer might actually possess a deadly heart mutant ability too. Songhai suppresses her heavy dread, asking, "Are you seriously meeting this treacherous middleman?" Kim Jiwoo gives a determined nod. They actively commit vile crimes against heart mutants. I heard they might be heart mutants themselves. Songhai finally grasped the grim situation. You are tracking down other mutants for clues about your comrades? She asked, her voice laced with dread. Yet, Kim Jiwoo had absolutely zero intentions of charging into a bloodbath. He only planned to use his awakened abilities to watch from the shadows. If chaos erupted, he could easily vanish. But if those scum-selling mutants like livestock show their faces, he swore, I will hunt down every single one. With those chilling words, Kim Jiwoo gripped a heavy steel wrench from the rubble. If a brutal fight broke out, he desperately needed a weapon. Charging blindly against another awakened mutant would just be an absolute death sentence. In supernatural combat, uncovering the enemy's hidden ability was always the absolute first step. But as his knuckles turned white around the metal, strategizing his next move, blinding flashes of silver suddenly pierced the darkness, completely freezing his racing thoughts. Before he could fully react, lethal flying daggers violently sliced the empty air, embedding themselves deep into a solid steel pillar. Sparks exploded everywhere. Kim Jiwoo's pupils shrank in sheer terror. Flying blades, a bone-chilling voice echoed from the heavy shadows. What is your purpose? Showing up entirely alone? You do not look like a mutant trafficker, the shadowy figure hissed. Are you a cop? Kim Jiwoo locked eyes with the hooded stranger. His heart plunged into ice as cold sweat rolled down his pale cheeks. Is this the underground broker? He panicked. Bracing against the concrete floor, he forced himself upright, his terrified gaze completely paralyzed by the stranger's gleaming blade. The mysterious stranger lacked any supernatural aura. He seemed exactly like a regular human, yet his suffocating bloodlust felt infinitely more lethal than any mutant's power. If he truly was human, taking him down would be vastly simpler to accomplish. Instantly, Kim Jiwoo exploded forward. He crossed the deadly gap in a single heartbeat, giving his enemy absolutely zero time to defend. But the exact millisecond his crushing fist swung down, it violently froze in midair. Kim Jiwoo's trembling eyes widened in pure, shattered disbelief. The fierce assassin standing directly before him was his former lab companion, Lee Jae-won. Lee Jae-won slowly readied his menacing sword, his voice dripping with absolute venom. How do you know that name? Before Jiwoo could breathe a word, Jae-won unleashed a devastating slash. Kim Jiwoo's bloodied body crashed violently onto the concrete. Yet, he desperately scrambled back to his feet, screaming his friend's name. In response, Lee Jae-won ruthlessly severed his leg tendons, instantly draining all strength from his collapsing body. Kim Jiwoo never expected Jae-won's blade to be this utterly merciless. Deep, agonizing lacerations instantly exploded across his rapidly trembling torso. He stared desperately at Lee Jae-won, his mind entirely shattered. The assassin's terrifying swordsmanship existed in a completely unreachable dimension. In that agonizing second, a vivid memory of their desperate laboratory escape violently crashed into Kim Jiwoo's rapidly fading mind. Back then, while sprinting toward fragile freedom, a massive stone ceiling collapsed directly into his path. He truly believed that colossal rock would instantly crush his bones, but suddenly, multiple crisp sword rings forcefully echoed through the air. The solid stone slab instantly shattered into countless jagged fragments. Even back then, Lee Jae-won's majestic blade mastery had left Kim Jiwoo utterly paralyzed with awe. But that was years ago. Fast forward to today, Lee Jae-won's deadly power had obviously become unimaginably stronger. He had smiled back then, declaring, "I will carve a path for you." Snapping back to reality, Lee Jae-won pressed his lethal blade closer. "Speak! Who told you my name?" Kim Jiwoo stayed absolutely silent, slowly forcing his broken body upright. This impossible resilience made even Lee Jae-won pause in pure shock. "I severed your leg tendons, yet you stand. You really are another heart mutant." Slapping his bloody chest, Kim Jiwoo frantically roared, "It is me! I am that little skeleton. I have finally regenerated my flesh." Instantly, a vivid memory of a skeletal boy violently jolted Lee Jae-won's mind. "Wait, does that mean you are actually Kim Jiwoo?" Gripped by heavy suspicion, the fierce swordsman demanded confirmation, one absolutely final time. "Are you really the Kim Jiwoo from our hellish institute?" Jiwoo desperately nodded. Discovering his long-lost brother surviving this nightmare sparked overwhelming joy in his battered soul. The very next second, Lee Jae-won raised a trembling finger. "Are you truly him?" Desperate, Jiwoo loudly pleaded for his friend to examine his rapidly healing wounds. "I completely regenerated my own flesh. We survived those brutal institute classes side by side. Is that not absolute proof enough?" As those heavy words echoed, Kim Jiwoo eagerly threw himself forward. "Jae-won, I missed you so incredibly much." But facing that warm embrace, Lee Jae-won coldly flexed his fingers, summoned his terrifying blade, and viciously slashed with overwhelming killing intent. Kim Jiwoo had absolutely zero time to dodge and took the devastating strike head-on. Fresh blood exploded from countless gashes, yet he stubbornly anchored his feet, refusing to collapse. Freezing sweat poured down his trembling brow. "You still cannot recognize me?" he gasped. Suddenly, a deeply sinister smirk curled the corner of Lee Jae-won's mouth. "Now I am completely certain," the swordsman hissed. "You really are Kim Jiwoo, because your gruesome wounds are regenerating incredibly fast." Enduring absolute agony, Jiwoo yanked the steel from his flesh, revealing the rapidly sealing wounds. Surely his comrade would lower his weapon now, right? But in a terrifying blur, Lee Jae-won's figure vanished completely into thin air. When he suddenly rematerialized, his razor-sharp blade was already pressing heavily against Kim Jiwoo's exposed throat. The millisecond the executioner swung, Jiwoo ducked sharply. Yet Lee Jae-won unleashed a relentless storm of slashes without pause. Kim Jiwoo can only roll and dodge, forced into a desperate, humiliating scramble as he braces against the dirt. Kim Jiwoo roars, "Why are you still attacking? Haven't you recognized me yet?" Lee Jae's face darkens, explosive fury surging up. "Why? You should know better than anyone." Lee Jae's merciless sword strikes rain down, completely overwhelming and suppressing Kim Jiwoo's defenses. Crimson bursts continually explode from Kim Jiwoo's body, the relentless slashes carving countless devastating new wounds into his flesh. The blade flashes blindingly fast. Kim Jiwoo tries to harvest strength from his bleeding, but this frantic clash drains his blood too quickly. If this brutal fight drags on any longer, He will just be wasting time. Looking up, he sees Lee Jae charging again. Without hesitation, Kim Jiwoo clenches his fists and meets the deadly assault head-on. But in a shocking twist, Lee Jae's merciless blade pierces straight through his defending arm. The strike is so blindingly fast that Kim Jiwoo can't track it. Lee Jae sneers coldly. Did you really think your crude attacks could ever touch me? He is dead right. Kim Jiwoo's desperate punch never stood a chance. He knows better than anyone just how utterly terrifying Lee Jae's swordsmanship truly is. But in that instant, Lee Jae's eyes widen in shock. Kim Jiwoo uses his rapidly regenerating muscles to crush the blade, trapping it deep inside his flesh. Then, he instantly seizes Lee Jae. While Lee Jae stands paralyzed by shock, Kim Jiwoo violently twists his core and yanks his opponent entirely upward. A violent storm rages in Lee Jae's mind. What kind of monstrous, overwhelming strength is this? With a sonic whoosh, Kim Jiwoo hurls him fiercely away. Lee Jae crashes down, sending a massive cloud of dust exploding outward. Yet, he just throws his head back and laughs wildly. I thought you were still just a pathetic, weak skeleton. I never expected you to awaken such monstrous strength today. But if you can fight like this, why did you run away back then? Kim Jiwoo raises a bloody hand to halt him. I never said I ran. Those words only ignite Lee Jae's explosive fury. I'm talking about the lab, the day we planned our great escape. Back then, dozens of test subjects rebelled together, but many were violently recaptured on the spot, and even the lucky ones couldn't shake off the merciless hunters. That was the terrifying moment Lee Jae realized he lacked sufficient scrap metal around him. Without it, his magnetic awakening was completely useless. He desperately screamed for his companions to scavenge more iron, hoping to launch a rescue for their fallen brothers. But Kim Jiwoo had only glanced around wildly. Despite nearby metal reserves, he didn't bring a single scrap over. Witnessing that ultimate betrayal, Lee Jae had frozen in pure despair. Right under a deadly hail of bullets, Kim Jiwoo had turned his back and abandoned them entirely. The crushing memory makes Lee Jae fall dead silent. Kim Jiwoo coldly replies, "If I hadn't run, maybe none of us would have survived." Lee Jae sneers with absolute disgust. "You cowardly, weak little bastard. I never should have trusted a pathetic skeleton like you from the start." In the very next second, he spreads his fingers, magnetically drawing all the scrap metal from the shattered buildings right into his core. As he greedily absorbs the iron, the entire ancient steel framework groans and violently trembles. Lee Jae knows Kim Jiwoo's cellular regeneration is absurd, but he fully believes a devastating attack of this apocalyptic scale will instantly vaporize Kim Jiwoo's defenses. Before his healing factor can even trigger, he will be shredded into bloody fragments. And indeed, that nightmare is unfolding. Kim Jiwoo finally feels raw panic. He spins around to frantically retreat, but behind him, Lee Jae has already summoned a terrifying sword formation. Countless floating blades lock onto his vital spots. Kim Jiwoo can only shield his organs and brace for the devastating impact. If he just survives, he can heal. But in the next heartbeat, a blinding flash of lethal sword light sweeps relentlessly across his vision. Lee Jae's explosive fury is terrifying. Before Kim Jiwoo can even twitch, countless brutal strikes carve into his flesh, pinning him down until he lies completely paralyzed. Pushed beyond its absolute limits by the merciless barrage, the entire rusty scrap metal structure catastrophically collapses. Civilians outside the ruined construction site hear a deafening blast, sounding exactly like a massive bomb detonating. Not far away, Sunhae and Longair witness the terrifying dust cloud. Isn't that the direction he headed? Did something terrible happen? Meanwhile, deep inside the apocalyptic ruins, Kim Jiwoo has shockingly turned the tables, pinning Lee Jae down. Lee Jae is forced to admit Kim Jiwoo's awakened healing speed is absolutely monstrous, but that hardly matters now. Panting, Kim Jiwoo begs him to calm down. There must be a massive misunderstanding between us. I never ran away that fateful day. I bled and fought until the bitter end to protect everyone. I only came here today because I was terrified my new comrades would be captured. Lee Jae freezes in disbelief. What twisted misunderstanding could possibly exist? Just as the two warriors remain deadlocked, heavy footsteps echo from the shadows. Kim Jiwoo knows perfectly well that being seen by any outsiders will fatally expose him. Sensing the threat, Lee Jae reluctantly yanks his arm back. He steps away into the shadows, letting Kim Jiwoo escape while growling they will settle this later. Whatever painful truths remain can be uncovered at Ajiro. Before vanishing, he casts one final heavily burdened glance toward Kim Jiwoo. We've both survived through absolute hell these past few years. When the time comes, words just fall short. Kim Jiwoo stands completely paralyzed. He never imagined the fierce Lee Jae slinging burgers at a fast food joint. A beat passes before Lee Jae takes a seat. He looks at Kim Jiwoo. This is my actual job. Songhai and Longhair tag along with Kim Jiwoo today. Even though Songhai trembles with nervous energy, she bows politely to greet Lee Jae. Shock crosses Lee Jae's face. He never expected Kim Jiwoo to make friends here. Meanwhile, Longhair remains bitter, obsessing over their explosive clash yesterday. Kim Jiwoo quickly cuts him off. Do not say that. Lee Jae is a trusted friend. The heavy conversation from yesterday finally resumes. Lee Jae leans in, desperate to know the dark truth. Why did Kim Jiwoo run away back then? The truth drops like an anvil. Kim Jiwoo never tried to flee. Surrounded by death, he heard the terrifying, rhythmic beeping of a live bomb. That terrible sound completely paralyzed Kim Jiwoo's mind. He is hypersensitive to bombs because he has been blown to pieces way too many times. As the Institute's hunters swarmed them, Kim Jiwoo planned to detonate the building to crush their pursuers. But that desperate move would wipe out innocent lives. Forced into a corner, he hugged the explosives tightly against his own chest. He tried desperately to contain the lethal blast radius with his flesh. In the blinding chaos, he accidentally sprinted way too far. Then, a dozen explosives detonated right in his arms. The shockwave launched him into the abyss. When his eyes fluttered open, he was stranded in an alien wasteland. Glancing back at the empty devastation, he found 0 survivors. Naturally, he assumed his comrades had successfully escaped the slaughter. Lee Jae's memories remain fragmented, but he vividly recalls a world-shaking boom echoing in the distance. Eyes wide in utter disbelief, he asks, "You actually strapped a mountain of bombs to yourself?" "I did. I knew mere explosions could never kill me." Lee Jae buries his face in his trembling hand. "And you expect me to swallow a ridiculous fairy tale like that?" Kim Jiwoo knows it sounds like sheer madness, but every word is true. Suddenly, overwhelming emotion breaks Lee Jae, and hot tears stream down his face. "I believe you." This sudden, heavy trust leaves Kim Jiwoo completely frozen in shock. Snatching his chef's blade, Lee Jae storms into the kitchen and violently hacks into a pile of onions. Kim Jiwoo can only stare in baffled silence. Ingredients fly into the air. Lee Jae's blade dances with lethal precision. In mere seconds, a masterpiece onion burger is forged. "My apologies. I completely lost my composure," he mutters. "These onions are just intensely sharp. Also, take this gift." Kim Jiwoo's mouth waters instantly at the glorious sight. It is the legendary signature burger combo of the restaurant. It turns out Lee Jae is a superstar here. Swarms of excited students quickly surround him, begging for a quick photo. Slapping on a cute puppy filter, his terrifying aura vanishes, replaced by an incredibly friendly, welcoming charm. Yet the second he drops back into his seat, that freezing, unapproachable aura instantly returns. He lowers his voice to a serious rumble. "Yesterday, I struck with lethal force before assessing the truth. That is my sin." But Kim Jiwoo barely registers the apology, brushing it off. True brothers in arms never need empty apologies. He is just marveling at the heavenly flavor. Lee Jae flashes a warm smile. "Pace yourself. We have an endless supply of burgers here." He proudly reveals his true status. He is the highest-ranking executive of this territory, the undisputed boss of the restaurant. Kim Jiwoo gasps in pure awe. This mirrors a perfectly normal, peaceful life. For Lee Jae to claw his way up here, the struggle must have been immense. Looking him in the eye, Lee Jae swears an oath. He will help Kim Jiwoo escape the shadows and forge a normal life too. Right now, Lee Jae's chin points to the heavens in pure arrogance. He plots to recruit Kim Jiwoo into his culinary empire. Offering half the base salary, he insists this disguise will perfectly hide Jiwoo as an average civilian. But just as his fiery enthusiasm peaks, Kim Jiwoo slices through the joyful mood. "I need absolute clarity," Jiwoo demands. "We clashed at the rendezvous point. Why the hell were you playing a shady middleman? Did you erase the nightmare of what the Institute morphed us into? How could you sink so low? Give me the truth, because I must know whose side you are on." Scratching his head in panic, Lee Jae claims he only plays the underground middleman out of sheer boredom. But the chilling truth drops. He hijacked that dark identity for one deadly purpose: to hunt down the monsters slaughtering heart mutants. The realization hits hard. Lee Jae never once abandoned the memories of his fallen comrades. He infiltrated the Syndicate's shadows to locate his missing family. Disguised as a broker, he harvests their classified intel, only to mercilessly eradicate them. A wave of relief washes over Kim Jiwoo. He never dreamed they shared the exact same bloody crusade, mirroring each other's ruthless tactics. Hearing this confession, Kim Jiwoo finally exhales. His brother-in-arms has not been corrupted. He is still a hero. By day, Lee Jae dominates the fast food grill, but by night, he transforms into an apex predator, executing a flawless reverse hunt. This revelation shakes Kim Jiwoo to the core. "Who knew my best friend was an absolute savage in the shadows? You have suffered far more than I imagined." Lee Jae rubs his neck, a rare bashful look crossing his face. "It was not that bad." Kim Jiwoo locks eyes with him. "If you ever need backup, you call me. Day or night. I am searching for our missing friends too. Do not hold back on me out of politeness." Lee Jae freezes, his expression shifting. Bam! He violently slams his hand onto the table. "You are right. Why the hell would I act polite with you?" Lee Jae reveals his master plan to hunt down a black market broker. With a little luck, this target holds the missing puzzle pieces to their friend's fate. Fearful for his friend's life, Kim Jiwoo insists on joining the deadly raid. However, Lee Jae instantly shoots the idea down. A crowd only complicates an assassination. Lee Jae extends his hand forward. Trust me, I will call on your strength plenty of times ahead. Kim Jiwoo meets him halfway, bumping fists in a silent pact. He swears to arrive the second Lee Jae calls. Night soon falls over the city. Returning to the alley, Kim Jiwoo feels immense gratitude, seeing his two companions patiently waiting. But behind him, Longhair glares with heavy suspicion. Is that shady bastard truly your ally? You have been apart for years. How can you blindly place your trust in him? Song Hae-ji nods in fierce agreement. When he casually mentioned selling humans to brokers, my blood ran cold. Kim Jiwoo merely chuckles, brushing off their panic. He declares Lee Jae is completely reliable. Deep down, his childhood friend possesses an unbreakable moral compass. Song Hae-ji suddenly realizes a glaring flaw. Wait, your friend promised he would reach out to you. You do not even own a cell phone. How exactly will he make contact? Smirking, Kim Jiwoo casually whips out a sleek device. He had looted it from the street thugs earlier, and Lee Jae's private number was already programmed inside. Elsewhere, a brutal midnight hunt is unfolding. A desperate fugitive raises his trembling hand. Leave me alone. A sickeningly sweet, golden slime oozes directly from his fingertips. With a terrified scream, he hurls the sticky mass backward. Caught completely blind, his three pursuers wipe out over the massive slick of butter. The exhausted mutant flashes a pathetic smile. I am sorry, I just want to survive. Crack! Before he even finishes speaking, a devastating punch obliterates his jaw. Towering above him stands a suited executive whose dark aura screams absolute danger. The impact is so earth-shattering that the mutant's eyes swell shut instantly. He collapses into a heap, convulsing in pure terror. Bleeding, he pathetically begs for mercy. My awakened heart is worthless. There is nothing special about me. My power is just butter. Have mercy. The suited boss viciously yanks him upward by the hair, scowling. He disgustedly remarks on how pathetic this low-tier mutant is. However, a contract is absolute. He cannot simply show mercy based on pity. The two backup goons stare in sheer disbelief. This target's physical stats are utterly garbage, no better than a regular civilian. But the ruthless boss could not care less. Trash or treasure, a mutant is still a mutant. Delivering this weakling guarantees a massive 1 billion payout. The butter mutant's mind shatters. Is he doomed to become a horrific laboratory guinea pig? Suddenly, an ominous shadow materializes behind the squad. It is Lee Jae. The mercenaries flinch. When did this phantom bypass their senses? A thug opens his mouth to shout, but a blinding flash of steel silences him. Lee Jae's eyes are utterly devoid of human warmth. If an awakened mutant fetches a high bounty, I am offering myself up. Come on, try catching me. Sensing the lethal killing intent rolling off this new mutant, the desperate mercenaries draw their weapons and launch a coordinated strike. Lee Jae blurs out of existence like a phantom. In less than a heartbeat, all four attackers are brutally slashed across their chests. To a predator like Lee Jae, these thugs are nothing but stepping stones. The bleeding boss violently draws his pistol. Threatening to blow his brains out, Lee Jae fearlessly clamps his bare hand over the deadly muzzle. After all, guns are forged from iron, and within this domain, all iron submits to Lee Jae. His awakened ability flares to life, ripping the metallic essence outward and absorbing the raw energy into his heart. Refusing to be intimidated, the arrogant boss ruthlessly pulls the trigger. However, the resulting spectacle completely paralyzes him in sheer terror. Lee Jae had secretly manifested a cluster of microblades inside the barrel. The weapon violently backfires, instantly shredding the boss's firing hand into a bloody mess. But the boss is an absolute savage. Gritting his teeth, he tosses the ruined pistol and violently rips his mangled hand free. Within moments, Lee Jae completely crushes the entire squad. He delivers a bone-chilling ultimatum. If you value your lives, never step foot in a place surrounded by iron. Trembling, the pathetic butter mutant crawls over like an obedient stray dog. Thank you for sparing me. He is shaking with pure, unadulterated excitement. This is his very first time encountering another awakened heart mutant. He was absolutely certain he would meet a brutal end today. Yet against all odds, he actually survived. Ignoring him completely, Lee Jae coldly raises a ringing cell phone to his ear. The missing heart mutant has been secured. Send a cleanup crew. Transport the asset back to the laboratory. The butter mutant freezes in total confusion. What laboratory? Wham! Lee Jae mercilessly knocks him out cold in a single strike. His gaze turns glacial. Shut your mouth. I am on a call. Meanwhile, a sinister figure on the other end reviews top-secret test subject files. You really are an interesting specimen. I've secured a batch of worthless test subject runs, all mixed power levels. As always, my methods are flawless, so my reliability remains absolute. Lee Jae-won smirks. There is one more crucial report. I finally tracked down that little skeleton who escaped. The second those words drop, a heavy silence suffocates the other end. The mysterious voice guarantees a massive payout, but only if the skeleton is dragged back alive. The mere mention of that reward makes Lee Jae-won's eyes blaze with absolute greed. Tomorrow, I capture him, he vows. Returning home, Lee Jae-won immediately starts prepping a warm dinner. His knife chops vegetables with robotic precision, but his mind is entirely consumed by how he will perfectly crush Kim Jiwoo. Luring Kim Jiwoo into the open will be child's play, simply because the boy has already handed over his absolute trust. Yet the memory of their daytime clash still burns vividly in his mind. He saw it clearly. Kim Jiwoo's regeneration ability is terrifyingly overpowered. Worse still, his raw physical power has skyrocketed beyond expectations, rendering ordinary lethal methods completely useless. He has no choice but to bait Kim Jiwoo into an arena packed with iron. Soon, Lee Jae-won finishes cooking, earning a bright smile from his wheelchair-bound sister. Big brother makes the best dinner. Lee Jae-won's cold eyes melt into warm affection. I even added potatoes today. Hearing the word potatoes, his young sister beams with pure excitement. That is my favorite. Lee Jae-won promises her that she can demand any expensive ingredient she desires from now on. His sister playfully tugs his sleeve, begging him to eat together, but Lee Jae-won firmly refuses. Not tonight. Your big brother has another important job later. Instantly, the joyful light fades entirely from his sister's eyes. Big brother is always leaving like this. But in the end, she loyally sets aside a warm portion, vowing to wait up for his safe return. Meanwhile, across the city, Song Hae-ji is waging her own battle in the kitchen. Having zero culinary experience, she is desperately following an artificial intelligence tutorial step by tedious step. Over these past few intense days, she could sense Kim Jiwoo was completely exhausted. She wants to forge a feast to reward his relentless efforts. As this is her first real attempt at cooking, nervous sweat completely slicks her palms. Her ambitious target tonight is fruit-marinated grilled meat. Song Hae-ji rigidly obeys the artificial intelligence's commands, blindly confident that this flawless system cannot fail. The marination process, heat levels, and precise seasoning are all perfectly mapped out. All she must do is execute the blueprint. With every successful step, her heart flutters with growing triumph. Truly, no one else would treat learning to cook like a strict tactical mission. Suddenly, her phone buzzes with a text from her older sister. Have you eaten dinner yet? Song Hae-ji immediately fires back, eagerly begging her sister to ditch work early and taste test it. Her sister directly replies with a single vomiting emoji. That ruthless rejection pierces Song Hae-ji's heart instantly. She informs Kim Jiwoo that her sister is working past midnight, advising him to sleep early. But then she catches him intensely gripping his phone, a ridiculously goofy grin plastered across his face. He is desperately waiting for Lee Jae-won's messages. Seeing his rare excitement, Song Hae-ji actually feels genuine relief. Finally, someone in this harsh world can draw out such a pure expression from Kim Jiwoo. Little Ears also repeatedly licks Kim Jiwoo's face, as if its animal instincts can perfectly sense his joy. Even after countless years apart, the very second Kim Jiwoo locked eyes with Lee Jae-won, all the traumatic time melted away into the golden past. Years ago, Lee Jae-won was Kim Jiwoo's closest friend, fiercely protecting him from the shadows. Whenever the boy was isolated, Lee Jae-won would boldly cross the divide to stand right by his side. Back then, Kim Jiwoo was crippled by social anxiety, trembling in fear at the mere thought of speaking. To make matters worse, brutal laboratory experiments had left his body battered, draining him of any desire to play like normal kids. Sensing his pain, Lee Jae-won forcefully lifted the hem of Kim Jiwoo's ragged clothes, exposing the horrifying truth: his fingers were completely severed. Panicked, Kim Jiwoo violently yanked his scarred arm back. The agonizing wounds from recent trials were still bleeding. Do not look, it is too hideous. Lee Jae-won's gaze pierced right through his insecurity. You have been trembling this whole time over something this trivial? Grabbing Kim Jiwoo's sleeve, he yanked the boy to his feet. He then strapped a wicked blade onto the mangled hand, transforming weakness into absolute security. Lee Jae-won arrogantly flared his own powers. Suddenly, a girl's flat voice cut through the tension. Lee Jae-won, are you bullying the weaklings again? I am not bullying him, Lee Jae-won fired back. I am teaching him how to survive. And the truth was, Kim Jiwoo deeply treasured that cold steel. To his broken spirit, it felt absolutely amazing. The girl simply sighed, completely unable to comprehend the burning excitement shared between the two boys, leaving her standing entirely outside their sacred bond. In that profound moment, Lee Jae-won extended a clenched fist. The scarred boy stared blankly, utterly confused, until Lee Jae-won spoke. Only brothers who share absolute trust bump fists. This is our proof. Trembling, Kim Jiwoo gently bumped fists with him. Right then, he realized Lee Jae-won genuinely viewed him as an equal. The heavy chains of isolation shattered, replaced by sacred trust. Recalling that memory, Kim Jiwoo cannot suppress a heartfelt smile. Lee Jae-won was undeniably legendary back then. Sitting beside him, Song Hae-ji is completely lost, unable to decipher their unspoken history. But seeing Kim Jiwoo radiate such happiness is enough. Tragically, this heartwarming reunion is actually a deadly trap. Song Hae reminds him to cool down first. It is finally dinner time. Next comes the spectacular meal she spent the entire afternoon preparing. Kim Jiwoo freezes in his tracks. The color, aroma, and presentation look absolutely flawless. He never expected Song Hae to possess such godly culinary skills. Song Hae beams with pride. Special grilled ribs, hurry and try them. Knowing his love for fruit, she intentionally loaded the dish with fresh strawberries and apples. Hesitant but curious, Kim Jiwoo picks up a bizarre bite of ribs and a fresh strawberry. He pops it into his mouth and chews slowly. Song Hae stares at him nervously. Well, how is it? Suddenly, tears stream down Kim Jiwoo's face. The flavor is absolutely dreamlike. He cannot believe a mere mortal cooked something this heavenly. Between the citrus and the strawberry, the sweetness balances perfectly. And the ribs? They are unbelievably tender and bursting with savory fragrance. This strange flavor combination is pure, undeniable genius. Just then, Kim Jiwoo notices Little Ears staring intensely at his plate, practically begging for a bite. But what our hero does not realize. Little Ears possesses zero desire to touch such an unholy, bizarre mixture. The pet just thinks it smells absolutely foul. Smiling, Song Hae assures Little Ears not to worry, she will gladly cook a separate batch just for it. Terrified, Little Ears violently shakes its head. It wants absolutely nothing to do with that cursed food. Meanwhile, Kim Jiwoo keeps wolfing down his plate. This is the greatest meal of my entire life. Thank you so much. Song Hae blushes. If you love it, I will cook it for you often. Kim Jiwoo nods eagerly. I could never get tired of this divine taste. But right at the peak of his joy, the phone violently rings. Only one person would be calling at this hour. Lee Jae. Kim Jiwoo snatches up the receiver immediately. On the other end, Lee Jae's voice is desperate. He chased the Institute's hounds but fell into a deadly trap. The tables have turned, and he needs immediate rescue. The very second Kim Jiwoo hears the word Institute, his heart drops like a heavy stone. Song Hae hears the panic too and desperately tries to stop him. A dreadful, suffocating premonition washes over her. But before she can even speak a word, Kim Jiwoo barks into the phone. I am on my way. Send me the exact coordinates. The digital pin drops. It points directly to the innermost sector of a desolate, abandoned factory. Slamming the phone down, Kim Jiwoo hurriedly shoves 2 more bites of food into his mouth. Lee Jae is facing death. He must leave this instant. He forcefully swallows the sweet meal, all the heavenly flavor completely forgotten. Turning to Song Hae, Kim Jiwoo bows his head in sincere apology. Your cooking is absolutely incredible. It is the greatest thing I have ever tasted. But time is up. I am so sorry. I ruined your entire afternoon. He turns to dash out the door, but Song Hae desperately cries out for him to wait. Terrified for his life, she begs to join the fight, but Kim Jiwoo firmly refuses. 10 agonizing minutes later, he crashes into the abandoned factory grounds. The entire landscape is a jagged graveyard of solid steel. Sweeping his gaze, Kim Jiwoo instantly feels something is terribly wrong. Battle scars mark the terrain. But surrounded by this ocean of iron, how could an elite like Lee Jae possibly face defeat here? Does the Institute possess some terrifying secret weapon? As he ventures deeper into the metallic abyss, the silence grows suffocating. A bone-chilling, dead silence. Worse, the battle damage is suspiciously minimal. Every survival instinct in Kim Jiwoo's body begins to violently scream. He knew this place held scrap metal, but this is sheer madness. The actual earth is completely paved over with massive, impenetrable steel plates. Cold iron stretches endlessly in every single direction, swallowing the horizon completely. Kim Jiwoo's mind spins at warp speed. He prays to the heavens. Please do not let it be his worst-case nightmare. In a literal fortress made of pure iron, Lee Jae losing is mathematically impossible. Gritting his teeth, he forcefully crushes that dark, creeping dread. Lee Jae must have been ambushed by an undetectable, overwhelming secret weapon. Perhaps his powers are completely sealed. Maybe he is bleeding out in a dark corner, desperately praying for his rescue right now. But suddenly, just steps away. A solitary hand lightly presses against the steel floor. Instantly, the metal erupts, forging into a storm of deadly blades. Without warning, a barrage of razor-sharp spikes launches viciously straight at Kim Jiwoo. Completely blindsided, 2 merciless steel spears pierce directly through his chest. A catastrophic, suffocating agony explodes instantly through his heart. Kim Jiwoo's face twists in sheer horror. Was he ambushed too? But as he forces his head up, he watches endless blades continuing to sprout. This is Lee Jae's signature power. Kim Jiwoo's shattered body crashes heavily onto the cold, unforgiving ground. Reflected in the bloodstained steel, he spots Lee Jae's towering figure. Mind short-circuiting, Kim Jiwoo chokes out, his voice violently trembling. "Were you not captured?" Lee Jae replies with dead eyes. "As you can clearly see." The devastating truth strikes Kim Jiwoo like lightning. Every single word on the phone was a venomous lie. In a flash, Lee Jae lunges forward, his voice absolute zero. "You finally figured it out." Swallowing the hellish agony, Kim Jiwoo forcefully tears his own flesh off the impaling spikes. But Lee Jae's speed is absolutely absurd. Bleeding out, Kim Jiwoo can barely track the frantic movements just to dodge the lethal strikes. A single misstep. Lee Jae lands a devastating kick, launching Kim Jiwoo through the air. Coughing blood, he screams through gritted teeth. "Why are you doing this?" Lee Jae-won's answer strikes like freezing iron. "I am the middleman. My mission is to hunt down mutants and drag them straight back to the lab." Those words crash down like roaring thunder. Kim Jiwoo's mind completely shatters. His own friend is about to throw him back into absolute hell. Lee Jae-won unleashes his terrifying aura. A deadly blade slithers up right behind Kim Jiwoo. He narrowly twists away, dodging a strike meant to instantly skewer him. In that exact same breath, Lee Jae-won lunges forward, his merciless sword swinging for the kill. Kim Jiwoo senses zero hesitation this time. Pure, unadulterated killing intent pours from his attacker. Lee Jae-won has truly transformed into a monster. Kim Jiwoo desperately rips a heavy steel plate from the dirt. As the executioner's blade crashes down, he barely deflects the devastating impact. Choking back his blazing rage, Kim Jiwoo roars, "Snap out of it. Are you seriously dragging me back to that nightmare?" He desperately needs answers for this insane betrayal. But Lee Jae-won coldly dismisses him, pressing a glowing palm directly against Kim Jiwoo's defensive steel plate. A split second later, 5 jagged blades violently erupt outward from inside the solid metal. Kim Jiwoo curses under his breath. What horrifying twisted madness broke this man? He wildly throws himself backward, rolling through the dirt in a desperate retreat. Kim Jiwoo never sees this ultimate betrayal coming. Lee Jae-won is officially a hunting dog for that sinister research institute's criminal underworld. He quickly grabs a heavy shield and a solid iron pipe. He instantly swings his weapon down with earth-shattering force. But to Lee Jae-won's awakened eyes, that desperate strike moves as slow as a crawling snail. Lee Jae-won practically whispers, "Stop struggling. Surrender is entirely painless." In that exact breath, a single effortless flick of his blade swats Kim Jiwoo's attack away like trash. Kim Jiwoo realizes fighting head-on means certain death. He immediately spins around and bolts. The friend he once cherished is dead. Lee Jae-won smirks like a predator. "You actually think you can outrun me?" The moment his palm slaps the dirt, countless steel blades erupt into a massive wall. A razor-sharp tip shoots straight for his throat. Kim Jiwoo violently jerks his neck sideways, barely dodging decapitation. The terrifying reality sets in. He truly wants me dead. This trap is flawlessly designed. Surrounded entirely by endless scrap iron, Kim Jiwoo stands absolutely no chance of survival here. Yet Kim Jiwoo's heart refuses to accept the truth. His closest ally is packing him up for the butchers. "What exactly did they do to you? Did you completely forget that torture? Do you actually want to return?" Lee Jae-won locks eyes. "It does not matter. Your pathetic life means absolutely nothing to me." Those heartless words completely ignite Kim Jiwoo's blazing spirit. If his life means nothing, then he will unleash every ounce of his power. However, his furious strikes barely even faze his opponent. Before he can blink, another cruel blade violently impales Kim Jiwoo's chest. But in that exact bloody instant, Kim Jiwoo's desperate fist is already flying straight toward Lee Jae-won's face. A devastating punch crushes Lee Jae-won's nose. The swordsman stumbles back in sheer disbelief. He has sliced this guy to ribbons, yet the fatal wounds mean absolutely nothing. Endless years of agonizing laboratory torture have forged Kim Jiwoo an unbreakable pain tolerance. The Kim Jiwoo standing here today is a totally evolved beast. His regeneration is godly, allowing for terrifying counterattacks the millisecond his flesh stitches together. Panicking, Lee Jae-won frantically unleashes a relentless storm of rapid sword slashes. He aims to completely overwhelm his prey with blinding speed, leaving absolutely zero breathing room for regeneration. He fully understands the strategy. Break the healing cycle constantly, and a counterattack becomes entirely impossible. Pure frustration burns in Lee Jae-won's eyes. This prey refuses to be slaughtered helplessly. Suddenly, a chilling memory of those hellish laboratory days flashes through Kim Jiwoo's mind. Back then, scientists dragged him into testing chambers daily. Today's nightmare happened to be a brutal regeneration trial. The massive steel doors groaned open. The person stepping inside was actually Lee Jae-won. Kim Jiwoo froze completely in terror. Why was his friend here? Those twisted researchers wanted to document tissue destruction and regrowth. They needed to see a regenerating heart face the ultimate sword ability stimulation. Lee Jae-won was the designated executioner. They demanded he use his awakened power to butcher Kim Jiwoo alive. Lee Jae-won immediately refused the order. This was his closest friend. There was absolutely zero chance he would comply. The second he defied them, high-voltage electricity ripped through his shock collar. Kim Jiwoo panicked wildly. "Stop being stubborn. Just cut me. I will completely heal. I swear I will be fine." Despite his desperate begging, Lee Jae-won refused to raise his blade. Kim Jiwoo's anxiety spiked into absolute terror. "I literally cannot die. If you keep refusing, they will fry your brain." Failing to convince his stubborn friend, Kim Jiwoo decided to hurl cruel insults instead. "You pathetic coward. Stop acting like a tough hero and obey their orders." Lee Jae-won despised that word more than death itself. His entire body visibly tensed up, yet Kim Jiwoo relentlessly continued his vicious mocking. "Slashing flesh is your only trick. Next to guys who freeze, burn, or obliterate things, your power is complete garbage. Too weak to even hurt me." Lee Jae-won stared in total disbelief. Kim Jiwoo ordered him to stop wasting time, promising his flesh would bounce back instantly. Finally, Lee Jae-won unsheathed his sword. "Fine, I will show you exactly how weak I am." A terrifying, razor-sharp darkness flooded Lee Jae-won's eyes. The instant Kim Jiwoo met that lethal glare, his own heart clamped in absolute dread. The agony was inevitable. A brutal slash struck the main character, Kim Jiwoo. Only then did he realize he had pushed the limits too far, provoking a devastating strike. After multiple ruthless strikes, crimson poured endlessly from Kim Jiwoo's gashes, yet he gritted his teeth. "That felt like nothing," he mocked. "Your attacks are pathetic." With those words, Kim Jiwoo collapsed heavily onto the cold floor. The experiment was over. Lee Jae stood there, looking completely hollowed out. His garments were completely drenched in crimson. Staring down at Kim Jiwoo's battered body, only one overwhelming emotion gripped his heart. Pure agony. Yet a second later, Kim Jiwoo completely froze. Why did the wound feel so ridiculously shallow? Lee Jae dropped his voice to a whisper. "Stay completely still. Play dumb." It was then Kim Jiwoo realized the scattered blood wasn't even his. In the exact microsecond he attacked, Lee Jae had slashed his own flesh, letting his crimson lifeblood spill out. Kim Jiwoo was totally bewildered. He possessed insane regeneration. He could heal from absolutely any fatal wound. Lee Jae looked like he was about to break. "You absolute moron. Your healing speed is basically a joke. Those Institute scumbags starve you of the energy needed to heal properly. Seriously, quit playing the self-sacrificing martyr. It is reckless, and it ruins you. True friends do not do this to each other. I refuse to watch you suffer." But that caring boy was gone forever. The former ally standing right in front of him was now plotting to slaughter Kim Jiwoo for real. He unleashed another devastating slash, and Kim Jiwoo felt as though his entire life force was violently draining away. Yet Kim Jiwoo pushed forward on pure, unyielding willpower. Dying here was not an option. He launched a massive punch toward Lee Jae. Just as his knuckles grazed his target, Lee Jae's deadly blade swung downward. But in a split second, Kim Jiwoo halted his strike, taking a massive gamble. Was Lee Jae being manipulated? This punch was merely a test. Lee Jae's aura exploded with fury. "Are you underestimating me?" He snarled like a wild beast. "Do you have any idea how much you insult my pride?" Before the echo faded, cold steel carved into Kim Jiwoo. The instant the impact launched him backward, Kim Jiwoo spun around and sprinted. His will to battle vanished. Lee Jae pursued him like a phantom. "Stop running. It is pointless. You are going back to the Institute today." With a powerful leap, his silhouette vanished entirely. But the ultimate shock struck when Lee Jae suddenly weaponized the lives of Song Hee-jin and Long Hair as leverage. In that single heartbeat, Kim Jiwoo's suppressed rage erupted. This crossed the absolute ultimate line. His footsteps halted instantly. If that was the reality, today would end in a bloodbath. A second later, Lee Jae ruthlessly severed Kim Jiwoo's arm, mocking him with venom. "Oh, I nearly forgot about that pathetic mutt of yours. That animal means the world to you, right? Try to escape, and I will butcher them all. Every retreat will cost you one of their lives." Before Lee Jae could finish his twisted threat, Kim Jiwoo's severed hand suddenly clamped viciously onto his jaw. The bloody fingers squeezed to the absolute breaking point, cranking up the pressure. Those venomous threats had finally unleashed a total monster. Lee Jae had not just shattered the last boundary. He had targeted the very people Kim Jiwoo swore to protect. Showing mercy was no longer an option. The lives dangling from Lee Jae's arrogant lips belonged to his treasured family. Initially, Kim Jiwoo desperately wanted to uncover the hell Lee Jae survived over the past 3 years. Perhaps there was some tragic, hidden truth. But right now, that desperate curiosity turned to absolute dust. The moment those sinister words left his lips, his former brother became a sworn enemy. From here on out, absolute destruction was the only answer. Kim Jiwoo brutally ripped into the corner of Lee Jae's mouth, gulping down his crimson life force. As stolen blood surged through his veins, the raw stump of his limb sparked. In a flash, a brand new hand materialized completely. The impossible sight left Lee Jae utterly paralyzed. Before his brain could process it, a devastating hook crushed his stomach, sending him violently stumbling backward. His immense power meant absolutely nothing now. He was merely mortal flesh, lacking the godlike healing of his furious opponent. Kim Jiwoo could absorb infinite amounts of damage, but if Lee Jae suffered just one direct impact, 3 ribs would instantly shatter, and a few more hits meant certain death. Kim Jiwoo ruthlessly drove a fist straight into his face. Lee Jae was launched through the air like a broken doll. The speed of that monstrous strike was entirely beyond mortal comprehension, but the true nightmare had just begun. The second he scrambled to his feet, a dark shadow had already slipped completely behind him. Another cataclysmic punch obliterated his nose. The sheer kinetic energy sent Lee Jae violently tumbling across the dirt, cursing in absolute panic. Where in hell was this monstrous power originating from? Could his enemy actually level up by consuming blood? His mind rejected the impossible reality. He frantically shifted to long-range suppression. Reclaiming the tempo of the battlefield was his only shot. Dozens of razor-sharp phantom blades manifested from thin air, launching a relentless barrage straight toward the unstoppable beast. Yet no matter the sheer volume of steel, Kim Jiwoo effortlessly danced a step ahead. Lee Jae froze in pure terror. Was this monster actually predicting the future? But what Lee Jae-won does not realize is that his blades pose zero lethal threat. Kim Jiwoo can clearly sense the exact trajectory of every single attack. Kim Jiwoo's reaction speed is miles beyond what it used to be. His awakening is not just mere regeneration. His sheer strength, lightning speed, and raw endurance are skyrocketing simultaneously. Every single regeneration pushes him toward a terrifying new realm. At this pace, Lee Jae-won knows with absolute certainty he is going to lose. He despises the idea of using his forbidden technique, but right now, he has absolutely no other choice. He slams his palm into the earth, frantically absorbing the ground steel. Iron particles viciously tear through his own blood vessels and vital organs. His heart thrashes violently, feeling like a ticking bomb waiting to detonate inside his chest. But the devastating cost no longer matters. His physical form begins a grotesque mutation. In the blink of an eye, dozens of jagged blades violently erupt from his own flesh. The horrifying transformation finishes, turning his entire body into a walking, living weapon. He is utterly convinced that no matter how many times Kim Jiwoo heals, he can never shatter this bladed armor. Lee Jae-won genuinely believes he has become completely invincible. Yet Kim Jiwoo does not slow down. Instead, his explosive speed actually multiplies as he recklessly charges straight in. So what if your entire body is forged from deadly steel? So what if those very blades ruthlessly pierce straight through my hand bones? You underestimate me way too much. I stopped fearing pain a long time ago. That single, devastating punch forces Lee Jae-won to violently cough up fresh blood. The jagged steel mercilessly stabs Kim Jiwoo, ripping his flesh. Yet, he charges forward, as if the agonizing pain does not exist. But compared to this physical torment, something else shatters him more. The devastating reality of his best friend's betrayal. Kim Jiwoo drives another merciless punch right into Lee Jae-won's face. The strike is vicious beyond belief, channeling all his explosive fury, because the deepest wound never comes from a blade. Kim Jiwoo would gladly die by an enemy's hand, rather than witness a brother stab him in the back. Compared to this soul-crushing betrayal, Lee Jae-won's razor-sharp blades are nothing more than a pathetic joke. A brother he has trusted for 10 full years is actually trying to throw him back into that living hell. Kim Jiwoo's heart aches so fiercely that breathing feels impossible. He furiously demands to know exactly why Lee Jae-won is doing this. Was their decade-long bond really worth absolutely nothing in the end? He desperately needs to know what demonic deal the Institute offered to turn Lee Jae-won into this twisted monster. Nobody understands the absolute horrors of that place better than Lee Jae-won. Yet, Lee Jae-won coldly replies, "There is no point discussing it now. I belong to the Institute. I plan to sell you to them from the very beginning. We can never go back to being brothers." Those heartless words completely ignite Kim Jiwoo's blazing wrath. He slams another brutal punch directly into Lee Jae-won's face. Kim Jiwoo absolutely refuses to let him shatter their entire history with one pathetic sentence. Today, he is going to physically beat Lee Jae-won back to his damn senses. If Lee Jae-won truly turned traitor, Kim Jiwoo demands to know the exact price of his loyalty. Even if you are spouting cheap excuses, you are going to look me in the eye and explain yourself. If you ever truly saw me as a brother, then spit out the truth. Lee Jae-won's gaze fills with heavy sorrow. That is right. We used to be friends. Back when our crew was together, those were happy times. But as time marches on, people inevitably change. Now, I have nothing left to say. I am sorry. Suddenly, the ominous thud of dense footsteps echoes from outside, making Kim Jiwoo's heart plummet. The Institute's death squad has officially arrived. A massive swarm of heavily armed personnel violently breaches the area. They flash blinding tactical lights, forcing Kim Jiwoo to shield his eyes as they aggressively order his immediate surrender. Kim Jiwoo's mind spins in total confusion. How did these monsters arrive so damn fast? Looking up, he stares straight down a terrifying wall of loaded gun barrels locked directly onto him. If he twitches even a single muscle, they will unleash hell. In the blink of an eye, Kim Jiwoo and Lee Jae-won are completely boxed in by 40 or 50 elites. One of the tactical soldiers aggressively barks into his radio. High threat mutant detected, requesting immediate heavy support inside the factory. Hearing those chilling words sends a massive jolt through Kim Jiwoo's chest. This ruthless efficiency is the terrifying signature of the Institute. Years ago, these exact same uniforms had completely surrounded him in the darkness. Back then, his immortal body could not die, but the endless nightmare of bullets repeatedly shredding his flesh was pure agony. These heartless monsters have never valued life, treating awakened mutants like nothing more than disposable lab rats. Kim Jiwoo instantly realizes his time is up. He has to violently smash his way out of this deadly trap immediately. Despite the betrayal, he aggressively grabs Lee Jae-won to hoist him up. For desperate self-defense, his hand locks onto a heavy steel pipe from the ground. A rusty pipe is completely useless against assault rifles, but if it buys him even a single explosive second, that is all he needs. The very next second, Kim Jiwoo hurls the steel pipe forward, with devastating superhuman force. He desperately intends to smash a bloody gap open. Pumping massive aura into his legs, he prepares to haul Lee Jae-won out at absolute blinding speed. Just seconds ago, these two were locked in a horrific fight to the death. But Lee Jae-won is still his brother at heart, even if the traitor genuinely intended to slaughter him right here. Maybe there is a dark, tragic reason tying his hands. As long as they survive this hell, Kim Jiwoo is fiercely determined to drag out the entire truth. No matter what, he absolutely refuses to let his former friend die here. But they barely rush forward a few steps before the armed strike team ruthlessly cuts them off. Kim Jiwoo did not dare to stop running. The second he hesitated, the enemy swarm would devour them. But what he never anticipated was the absolute nightmare ahead. The outside perimeter was completely locked down. Turning the corner, a massive wall of heavily armed soldiers blocked their only escape route. Dozens of pitch-black rifle barrels locked onto Kim Jiwoo and Lee Jae-won. Kim Jiwoo's blood ran ice cold. Facing an army this massive, escaping alive seemed absolutely impossible. In a flash, the relentless pursuers from behind crashed in, forming an airtight circle and obliterating all retreat routes. Their commanding officer barked out, "Stay sharp and wait for headquarters. If the target breathes wrong, I authorize lethal force." This was Captain Kim Woo of the Elite Special Assault Unit. The grim situation pushed Kim Jiwoo into absolute despair. If this nightmare dragged on, he would be thrown right back into that hellish lab, repeating the bloody tragedy. Kim Woo tapped his communicator to report to command. But out of nowhere, a commanding hand clamped down on his device. A fierce woman snatched it away completely. From this exact second, I am taking absolute command of this entire operation. This woman's authority was terrifyingly absolute. Even the elite assault captain did not dare resist. Her name was Sun Hae-in. Kim Jiwoo's face froze in pure shock. Not just him, the entire elite squad broke into a nervous cold sweat, proving her untouchable rank. Not a single soul expected the legendary Sun Hae-in, the supreme commander of the Special Operations Unit, to step onto the battlefield herself. Following Sun Hae-in's absolute order, every soldier instantly lowered their deadly weapons. Sun Hae-in slowly approached Kim Jiwoo, and he was stunned to hear her actually whisper his name. Leaning in close, she murmured softly, "Please do not be afraid. I am here to save you. My little sister told me everything about your tragic situation." In that heart-stopping second, Kim Jiwoo finally understood. The powerful woman offered a warm, reassuring smile. "My name is Sun Hae-in. I am Sun Hae's older sister. It is truly wonderful meeting you."